Again, the best place for sunshine will be in the far south of England and also northeast Scotland. Otherwise, generally grey skies continuing, although most places dry through Wednesday. Similar expected on Thursday and Friday as high pressure remains close by.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Budget Day on GB News on Wednesday. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight
and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day all day Wednesday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christies tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christies tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello there. One day until apparently the budget of a generation.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves teases £35 billion worth of tax rises, but apparently it's still not enough to get the NHS back on its feet.
Well, despite £1.5 billion already being announced to cut down on waiting lists, in half an hour we'll be holding Health Secretary Wes Streeting to task. That's live here on GB Breakfast.
Now, the price rises just keep coming after the Prime Minister confirmed the bus fare cap will rise from £2 to £3.
1 week out, Trump and Harris are neck and neck in the race for the White House as they make their final pitches.
The consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious. Brutally serious.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here.
Should adult children be forced to leave the family home? to stand on their own feet. We'll be debating that this morning as the topic divides the internet.
Sherry lady. Actress Sherry Houston joins us this morning as she opens up about loneliness as you get older.
And in the sport this morning, Eric Ten Hag is now Eric 15 Hag. That's how many millions he gets from Manchester United after being sacked yesterday. And Rodri wins the Ballon d'Or, but Real Madrid boycott the awards.
Hello, good morning. A cloudy and grey day on offer, though there will be some brighter spells in places. Stay tuned and I'll have all your details later.
Hello there. 1 minute coming up to 2 minutes past 6 on this Tuesday morning. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Nana O'Quay. Good morning. This is GB News Breakfast.
It is a day to go until the autumn budget, and the Chancellor has warned that tax hikes and borrowing increases may not be enough to undo 14 years of damage to the NHS.
Speaking at St George's Hospital, she said staff are using equipment purchased under the last Labour government, which should have been replaced.
Well, former advisor to Boris Johnson, Oscar Redtop, joins us in the studio today to give us his take on just how fixed, or how dire, as Wes Streeting called it yesterday, the NHS actually is. Oscar.
Good morning.
How bad is the NHS?
Look, I think there's no secret. I think the NHS, and we've reached probably a surprising political consensus amongst Labour and Tory politicians. It is broken and it needs real reform and fixing. The political question is, do we dump that responsibility on, as Keir Starmer would call them, working people by hiking up taxes?
Well, there is a lot of waste in the NHS, right? And, listening to what they're all saying before all of this, Wes Streeting was saying reform. They're all talking about reform. But now they're just talking about money. You can keep chucking money into something, but if it's badly organised, badly managed, you just keep chucking money into it. Now, why are they not? I haven't heard them address it.
The concept's flawed. I mean, I'm just listening to you coughing and thinking, get to A&E, get yourself sorted. But there's something that can go wrong with all of us. It depends what degree it is. And I think we as individuals have a responsibility to say, that's not too serious, I shouldn't be bothering the authorities with that.
Well, personal responsibility is a real factor in that, and I think some people struggle with it more than others. I have no doubt, Nana, you've got him in the studio, or you're doing an interview with him today, that you'll put him on the spot about that wastage. And it was really interesting. He wasn't a perfect chancellor to a lot of people, but Jeremy Hunt yesterday, I thought, spoke quite eloquently about the challenges of funding the NHS, and that, productivity, welfare reform, new technology, and these are all things that kind of align with growth for the wider economy, and it doesn't quite feel like that's the way Labour want to go about it. It will just be tax rises that ultimately pay for this. I mean, high-quality public services obviously are something that every single person in this country would care deeply about it, but it's about how we get there. And, people have had a really tough time of it over the last few years. Conservatives have responsibility in that. I'm not here saying anything other than that. And if Wes and the NHS can show that this service is improving quickly, then I think people won't mind dipping in their pocket. But I think we all know how difficult a task that is.
Well, we do know it's difficult, but, I would still be urging him to focus on the high levels of management at the top of the triangle, which seems to come down and point downwards when it comes to frontline staff. So this is the problem. He can say everything. I'm happy to pay money into the NHS, but I'm not happy with the shape of that triangle. I'm not hearing him address that, and that's really irritating.
You're spot on. I mean, a Labour Party, again, it's really important to be kind of politically, at a height and really look at things fairly. But a Labour Party are not going to help with with cutting costs on things like middle management, bureaucracy, red tape. People who you're not like. What do you do for a living? Like, what is your job? And yet you're on a six-figure salary. The Labour Party historically actually encourage that kind of practice rather than kind of cutting down on it, and that may frustrate people in the months and years ahead.
OK. Oscar will speak again throughout the programme. Thank you very much indeed. To the White House now, and the battle for the White House is in its final stages. Only 7 days to go until America decides.
And overnight, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are crisscrossing swing states to win over voters in Michigan and Georgia.
The consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious.
You've accepted some of the worst criminals in the world into our country. You're going to say it, please say it, sir. I say I will. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here.
And we're delighted to welcome into the studio American political commentator Jennifer Ewing. Good morning, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good morning.
Jennifer, why is this so close? I mean, we were left, you know, Kamala Harris was seen as a sort of non-entity, a non-runner prior to entering the race, and then suddenly it was game on.
Well, I think a lot of people in the beginning were relieved that the candidate was not Joe Biden, right? It looked very much like he was going to win, so you had a fresh face, she's younger, and she does very well in the beginning. Now, don't forget, she ran in the primary in 2020, and in the beginning, she looked great, right? But the more people saw and heard of her, the less they liked her. So that's exactly what you're seeing right now. It's a fizzle out. She cannot discuss policy, and now she's doing this crazy, like, Nazi thing, which is not only untrue, but it's wildly ineffective and offensive to a lot of Trump's voters. So the polls are indeed neck and neck still, that's for sure, but the momentum is in President Trump's favor.
So if the race was going on longer, that would be not in her favour then, would it?
Correct. Yeah. She, you know, I think once they kept her away from the media, remember, for about 40 days. Yeah. She still is yet in 90-something days since she was coronated. She hasn't done a press conference at all, which is just bananas. So she started doing a little more press, and even with the friendly press, like, I don't know if you guys saw the CNN town hall last week, she cannot answer basic questions. And as many people that do not like former President Trump, and there's a lot of them out there, right? Which is why it's such a close race. I think they just don't feel okay with Kamala Harris. Now, feelings aside, the two biggest issues that voters are voting on this year are economy and inflation and the crisis we have at the southern border. And Trump polls better than her on, you know, multiple points higher on both of those. So if you can't afford gas and groceries,
well, she's quite an interesting figure. I mean, I just wanted people to see this clip because I thought she may have been drunk in this one.
Oh,
which is talking about this is the coconut tree thing that she made this quip. Have a listen.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Wait a minute, I missed that. What?
She was talking about, I mean, they've missed the beginning of it where she said her grandmother used to say, "You just fell out of a coconut tree." Then she went, and she looked and laughed around and nobody joined in. And she has moments like this continuously.
She does, and it's funny, someone pointed out that in the beginning of her official campaign as a vice president, the cackle, the Kamala cackle, as they call it, went away. But it's definitely back the more she gets nervous. And look, we don't want to make fun of people's tics or anything like that. We all have them. People get nervous. People forget numbers and names. But when you consistently just are depending on either the media to run cover for you because they don't like Trump, or these celebrity endorsements, which we know are wildly ineffective, your campaign is in trouble.
So how much trouble is Donald Trump in since his last tenure in office? Has he been basically forgiven, mostly forgiven, not forgiven at all?
Well, I think what we have now, I mean, is we have two records. It's a unique election because we have two actual records which the voters can look at. Rather than just the incumbent's record, we have Donald Trump's record of 4 years of peace and prosperity. Obviously, the lockdown and COVID situation, you know, messed that up towards the ends. But we also have the Kamala Harris-Joe Biden record. And if, you know, you've got a minimum 60% of the country saying right now they believe the United States is going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, he's been forgiven because it's the less of two, you know, he's the better choice.
And for Britain, who is the better choice?
No doubt about it, it is Donald Trump. And in spite of, you know, Labour Party sending over these people to go knock on doors, again, it's going to be wildly ineffective. And unless they're speaking like they're from Downton Abbey, not sure the American voters will even understand them. But that's ineffective. I know David Lammy's had to make quite a few apologies, but no, Donald Trump is an Anglophile. His mother's from Scotland.
Yeah.
He loves the UK.
What about what happened on his campaign, though? Because there was was it at Madison Square Gardens where somebody made a comment about the Puerto Rican island. Let's have a listen to this. How's that affected him?
A comedian. He was a comedian.
A comedian, yeah.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Now, that wasn't actually received that well from the people around anyway, even though he maybe thought it was a joke. But what was the response? How's it affected Trump's campaign?
Well, the short answer is it hasn't affected Trump's campaign that much at all. Keeping this into context, Tony Hinchcliffe is a little-known comedian outside of comic circles.
Yeah.
He was talking about the fact that Puerto Rico, and Puerto Ricans will tell you this, has more garbage on their island. It's something like 3 times more than the rest of the United States. So even Puerto Ricans will say, we are an island, a landfill of garbage. It was in reference to that with other jokes. The Trump campaign immediately did come out and say, hey, these are not our views. But he was not insulting Puerto Ricans. And again, it was part of a longer joke. And I think when you are 7 days, 7 days away from an election, and you're discussing this, I don't mean you, but, you know, people, rather than the 7 hours of that incredible rally of 20,000 people inside, of all shapes and sizes. There was a fantastic guy that spoke there called Michael Harris. He'd been let out of prison in California after 33 years. And I actually volunteered for his program inside San Quentin. And he was helping prepare prisoners to re-enter society after they got out. So there was that. There was Jewish people. There were women. There were gay people. There were straight people, white people, you know. So I don't know. I don't know the last time that's considered a Nazi rally.
But that quote, all I'm saying is a lot of people are playing that, and what you're hearing is that this is racist, this is terrible, and I'm really glad that you've explained it in context.
Thank you.
Because everyone is talking about it.
Do you know what? If that same joke, and if you want to call it that, appeared on Have I Got News for You, it would never have been talked about.
Oh, it'd be fine,
ever. I think
good point.
Yeah, very little to talk about if that's what they're on about. Just finally, would you like to call the result on this?
Okay, the polls are incredibly close right now. All of the swing states are within a margin of error. I do think Trump will win. I really do. And one important thing, the reason he had this massive rally in New York, an obviously very blue Democrat state, he was in Coachella in California a few weeks before. Why would he do that? It shows to me he's comfortable, the numbers he's seen in the swing states. So he's now going not just for the electoral vote, he's going for the popular vote as well. And also, remember, we've got a lot of down ballot votes, very important in New York, California, and he's going to New Mexico today. So this is a good sign for Trump.
But these are places that he was not expected to have any support for, so Coachella in particular. Nobody would vote for him there, but he was received well there.
Absolutely, and again, I'm from California, and you know, outside of the very sort of left-leaning Los Angeles, Hollywood, parts of San Francisco, you've got a massive rural community. You've got a lot of people that are voting on the price of gas and groceries, and of course, California has had, you know, really been a recipient on the bad end of the very open border policy, which is directly aligned to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden putting a line through Trump's good policies. So,
Jennifer, thank you for your analysis.
Thanks, guys.
Much appreciated. Very, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Jennifer Ewing there, who is a US political analyst and commentator there. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom on this Tuesday morning. Israel has now passed a new law banning a key UN aid agency from operating within its borders. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency relies on Israel to access Gaza and the West Bank, where it is responsible for 5 million refugees. The organisation's chief has said the decision will likely deepen the suffering of Palestinians.
The funeral of former Scottish First Minister Alex Salmond will take place this afternoon in his home village of Streeting. He died earlier this month from a heart attack whilst attending a conference in North Macedonia.
Bad news if you're a hedgehog. Experts are warning the furry animal, well, it's not a furry animal, it's a spiky animal.
Yes, prickly.
Yeah, is in a near threatened list and could go extinct after a steady decline in numbers over the past 20 years. Hedgehogs have been moving closer to towns and cities in order to stay close to food sources. Now that leads to more being run over by trucks and cars and lorries and all sorts of things. Bad news. See,
poor hedgehogs, eh?
Well,
no sad animal stories.
Yeah. Oh, it's just bad news if you're a hedgehog. That's for sure. I remember as a kid, there used to be hedgehogs in our garden and things, but it's been years since I've seen a hedgehog.
Yeah.
Well, they're looking for food. Maybe put a little dog bowl out of some food and
that's
they'll
why
come
they
back.
get run over.
Yeah, that's what they were saying.
They get run over for nice people trying to feed them. They go, there's a little bowl over there. And they start moving towards it.
Oh, I see what
and
you
then they get run over.
Yes. Jennifer, are you staying or going?
What are you getting up for?
That's okay.
Oh, no, I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
Just
I think
sit there.
Jennifer thinks we're off air. We're not. The other thing I think we should think about feeding the squirrels and foxes.
Oh, they don't need help finding food.
Oh, they do.
How do they?
Honestly,
They're
the more I
everywhere.
think, Jennifer made a point about looking at animals
no.
on social media and things, and foxes suffer and they talk to you, and they're like little doggies. Do you not think so?
No, I think they're like big rats.
No.
I do, but there's so many of them.
I just think they've got a bad reputation.
Do you think?
Yeah.
No, I'm still, there's a lot of them. I feel
Heartless you are.
Oh, but I feel for the hedgehogs.
Yeah.
A bit prickly
Honor
there.
Chiswick, good morning.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a cloudy day on offer today, largely dry, though there will be some spots of rain and drizzle at times. And where that cloud breaks up and we see those brighter spells is going to feel mild for the time of year. A fairly cloudy day on offer, particularly at times across the far southeast, where we'll see some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. This is similar across the far northwest of Scotland too. Fairly damp afternoon here across the far northwest Highlands, but otherwise largely dry and seeing that cloud break up more than it did on Monday. And looking at those temperatures, it's still fairly mild for this point in October, so feeling pleasant where you catch those brighter skies. As we head through into the evening, we'll continue to see that fairly damp evening on offer in the far northwest Highlands, but elsewhere across Scotland it's going to be largely dry, even seeing some clearer spells in the far east at times too to end the day. Fairly cloudy across Northern Ireland and also northern parts of England, but once again there will be some clearer spells at times. And similar across Wales, central and southern England, a mix of cloud and clear spells as we head into the evening. Now where we see those clearer skies, we're likely to see some mist and fog develop. That could be quite stubborn to clear by the time we reach the morning. Otherwise, once again, staying largely dry overnight, still with those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the far north of Scotland. And just a slight breeze strengthening across Scotland too, but otherwise light winds and staying fairly dry with a mix of that cloud and those clearer spells. So quite a grey start as we head into Wednesday. Some mist and fog during the first part of the morning too, but generally we have high pressure building, so there's going to be lots of dry and fine weather around, though it may just be quite cloudy and drab at times. We will eventually start to see some outbreaks of rain just moving into the far northern Isles later, but otherwise a largely dry day on offer, and once again temperatures just above average, so feeling pleasant for the time of year.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break, a relatively short break, and we're on standby for the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. Big budget for him. He's saying more tax hikes might be needed just to keep the NHS afloat. OK, if you've got a point to make, have your say on the NHS, and we'll put it to Wes Streeting right after this short break. Budget Day on GB News on Wednesday. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight
and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day all day Wednesday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Serving some of the most talked about food in Chelsea, executive head chef of Number 50 Cheney, Ian Smith, has created a range of menus with a hint of the homeland, using the finest British ingredients sourced by trusted suppliers. Ian Smith was head chef at Jason Atherton's Social Eating House and spent time in the kitchens of the Galvin brothers. Ian joins me now to tell more of the story. Tell me about Number 50 Cheney.
Yes, so we are a beautiful restaurant down in a corner of Chelsea on the Embankment with an amazing team. And we are really pride ourselves on, being an affordable luxury that people, really are wanting to return to week in, week out.
What's the view from your restaurant?
Well, you can see the Embankment, the Thames, and Albert Bridge, which is very nice.
Very
it's actually lit up. Very romantic.
And tell me a little bit about your philosophy. I was talking there about having a touch of the homeland, British food, seasonal food.
Yes. Yeah, I think, for me, great cooking is, with simplicity on finest ingredients, cooked with simplicity, and ultimately, there to be enjoyed through... Yeah, sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, it starts as a young person's business. You went into it very young, didn't you? 15?
Yes. Yeah, so I was 15. I sat in my parents' bedroom, called the Ritz, the Dorchester and Claridge's, and very luckily, a man on the end of the phone, 21 years ago, sent me on to a college course called the Specialised Chef Scholarship. 3 days later, I had a Ritz stamp letter through the post, and off me and my parents went, and luckily I got on the course.
And how old were you when you got your first responsibility, would you say?
I think the biggest responsibility in my career is today. Leading Number 50 Cheney.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, a lot's been made about this budget tomorrow, and it will also commit to a cap on bus ticket prices, so it's going up 50%. So the bus companies couldn't charge you more than £2 for a bus ride, which I didn't know, which I have to say sounds incredibly reasonable to me. That's now £3. But, of course, this is causing problems for a lot of people, and you'll be able to judge for yourself after you see this report, and we'll talk about it after this.
The Coastliner 840 is the most scenic bus route in Britain. Taking in views of the North Yorkshire moors, passengers can travel 140 miles from Leeds to Whitby and back for just £4 under the bus fare price cap. It serves rural villages like Goathland, famed for Heartbeat and Harry Potter. But there are fears that the service could be scrapped as a result of the budget.
£2 fare cap really has been a lifeline for many services that are teetering on the edge of survival here in North Yorkshire and really across the country. It's been extremely popular. We've seen an uplift in passenger numbers. We're in a very rural part of North Yorkshire here in the moors. This is just one of the communities that could be left cut off if we do see this breakdown of the network in North Yorkshire.
The new £3 price cap is now set to remain until the end of 2025. But without the cap, Councillor Duncan warns of a cease in services.
The fear really is that we see these skyrocketing fares, passenger numbers plummeting, and our bus services here in North Yorkshire once again being thrust into jeopardy. We could see up to 80 routes at risk. That's a third of our network, and I really do fear that we could be facing catastrophic consequences for North Yorkshire's bus network.
For passengers boarding the bus in Malton, removing the price cap would not be welcome.
We probably wouldn't bother because it doesn't become financially viable, does it? Because you can do it cheaper in the car. The whole point is it's cheaper on the bus, you know, which is better, surely.
Just wouldn't use the bus. Just wouldn't use it. Yeah, just stick to the car.
When people are struggling financially in any case, then it's yet another thing, isn't it? And unless you're going to work, it's just something that you do from choice. So, yeah, there's a big chance that people wouldn't, because they couldn't. They'd feed the kids instead.
The budget will now include a commitment to keep a cap on bus prices at an increase of 50%. But there are still fears over the future of the cap after next year. Anna Riley, GB News.
Now, I'm going to be controversial here. Is it just that we want everything for nothing? Just, you know, people are saying basically, well, why should I pay for a bus fare? I don't think £2 now up to £3 is bad for the price of a bus. But maybe if you're doing that trip, you know, 10 times a week or whatever, yes.
But it's like a 50% increase in one hit. That's a lot for anything, even if it's, you know, if they're going to do something, do it gradually. But also I'd want to know, why are they going up, and where's the extra money? What's it for?
Well, what I think the government should do is supply buses free to everybody. And then there would be an uptake and they'd actually be used, and you wouldn't see buses going around empty and whatever. And I think that would pay for itself, basically.
Well, it would, but through our taxes, wouldn't it? We'd be paying for it.
No, it would take traffic off the streets and...
Yeah, but we'd be paying for it, so it would increase how much tax we pay. So, again, I mean, it's a nice idea, things are all free, but also I think as well, when something is free, people don't respect it.
Yeah.
So just like the NHS, supposedly free at the point of need, we are actually paying for it. Some people don't link that with their taxes. But then, you know, people don't show up to there's missed appointments that are costing us billions, and because people don't invest in it, so themselves in it. So I think free buses, people will just disrespect them.
We'll put that to the Health Secretary when he pops up very shortly. So we do value what you have to say, and it's very good getting different opinions about things. So we run this poll of the day. Today we are asking, how worried are you about the budget? How worried are you about Rachel Reeves' budget? So you can cast your vote on that, and we'll bring you the results throughout the day on the programme. Final result will be announced by Martin Dobney at 3 o'clock.
So if you want to check out all the latest polls and the news on how to vote, all you have to do is go to the website, gbnews.com/poll.
Right. So how would you like to win your entire Christmas this year from talking about giving stuff away? That's exactly what we are going to do. We're going to give you the chance to do just that with the very latest Great British Christmas giveaway. And here's what you have to do to win it.
We could be
budget for the NHS. What's going to happen? The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, with us live right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Now, Dalmuir Railway Station is closed at the moment because of an incident with train services suspended between Dalmuir and both Yorker and Drumchapel. In South Ayrshire, the A77 is closed each way along Main Street in Ballantrae after a lorry caught fire. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, the westbound entry slip road's closed at junction 30 from the A642 at Rothwell after an accident. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from Blythe to Retford after a lorry caught fire. In Leicestershire, the A511 is closed each way east of Ashby de la Zouche after an accident. In Bedfordshire, Hatters Way in Luton is closed because of an accident. And on the M26 in Kent, it's taking around a quarter of an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of lane closures for roadworks. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, the first thing on my mind when I heard about this is, what has this country come to when we're talking about getting kids as young as 6 years old to be jabbed weekly or however often it is because they are too fat. Where are the parents in all of this? There's three things actually here that are important. Number one is we do not know the long-term consequences of these jabs. So if I had a child and I was going to let them have the jab, I would be feeling like I'm treating them like a lab rat, to be quite honest with you, because we don't know the long-term consequences. Secondly, the manufacturers are clear that some of the potential side effects can be very serious. We're talking about potentially pancreatitis, let's get my word out, and also it lists as a potential side effect thyroid cancer. Arguably, it's called the gamble jab, to be honest with you, because of these potential side effects at the moment. And then thirdly, I come back to the parents. Where are the parents in all of this? Because they are the role models. So it really is about parenting, and it's about parenting from being a role model yourself in terms of being slim and healthy, and not expecting a jab to take your place and other people to take your place. If you have children, they are your responsibility. Think before you breed. The other thing you need to remember with this is when you stop taking that jab, it is highly likely that you're going to put all the weight back on. Now, the thought of a child of 6 years of age, starting with that jab, conditioning them mentally to live with that jab, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely not on.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Delighted to say on this very busy day we have the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, standing by, ready to talk to us. Health Secretary, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good, good. You don't look too happy. and no wonder... I'm not going to sit here and lambast you the way...
Sorry about that.
A lot of people do this with politicians, whatever, because I look at you and I think this man cares about his job. It really comes across that you care and it means a lot to you. And you did say yesterday, you described the state of the NHS as dire.
I feel like there's a butt coming my way.
Yeah. Well, how dire is it, would you say?
It's extremely... it's the worst crisis in the NHS's history. Objectively, the worst crisis in its history. We asked Lord Darzi, an eminent cancer surgeon, 30 years experience in the NHS, to give us the warts and all account of how bad the system is today. And there's no beating about the bush about it, whether it's the size of the waiting list, the fact that people can't guarantee an ambulance turns up on time, the struggle to get a GP appointment or a dentist, the waits in A&E. The NHS is not just on its knees, it's on its face. And what tomorrow's budget will give us the chance to do is arrest that decline and mark a turning point in the history of the NHS and in the decline we've seen over the last 14 years. Today what we're talking about is the delivery of our manifesto commitments to cut waiting lists. So the 40,000 more appointments every week we said as our first step, and we are already ramping up to those 40,000 more appointments. This week we've got crack teams of top clinicians going into the 20 hospitals across the country that have got the highest waiting lists and the highest levels of people locally who are off work, off sick, so we can get people back to health and back to work. The money that's coming in the budget will enable us to deliver our manifesto commitment of doubling the number of scanners over the course of this Parliament. Not just more scanners, but AI-enabled scanners. And that will enable us to start cutting NHS waiting lists. I think people are realistic. They know that we're not going to turn the NHS around in just a few months or in a single budget. It's going to take time, and that's why the Chancellor is prioritising the NHS in her budget, but we are linking that investment also to reform, because everything I said in opposition about waste and inefficiency in the NHS, the need to improve productivity, and we can't keep on pouring more money in without reform, all of those things stand.
You are right. You can't keep pouring money in without reform, and we're all bored of giving the NHS more and more money, and nothing seems to change. So what things in your reform are you going to cut spending on? For example, how much money is spent roughly on things like health tourism? Do you know how much, roughly, the parameters of how much money is wasted there?
Well, one of the things that I'm going to be doing, Nana, beyond the budget, so obviously the last few months I've been focused on making sure we get the 40,000 more appointments up and running. That wasn't inevitable, by the way. When I came in, the scale of the in-year deficit meant I was told that rather than delivering 40,000 more appointments every week, I'd have to instruct the NHS to deliver 20,000 fewer appointments every week because the money wasn't there. I wouldn't let that happen. The Chancellor wouldn't let that happen. So we put 1.8 billion. But to your challenge, whether it's health tourism, whether it's the right staff in the right place, waste, inefficiency, bureaucracy, beyond the budget, I'll be setting out steps in the coming weeks to make sure that, as well as the extra investment going in being linked to reform, we also take a long, hard look at where money is currently spent in the NHS. One of the benefits of the big conversation that I launched last week was to ask the front line to give us those examples of where they see the waste and inefficiencies.
OK, I was going to say it's between...
sorry, I lost you across there.
That's OK. So it's between 70 to 300 million. You also, a lot of money is wasted on top-level management. So I could save you £500 million by just cutting out our health tourism, getting rid of middle management, and also getting rid of EDI. So are you going to address those things directly, those specific things?
Well, firstly, I should encourage you to go on to change.nhs.uk to send in your suggestions. We've already had over 500,000 people visit the site. We've had 6,000 suggestions, many of which are really good ones. Other, in the spirit of the great national sense of humour we have in this country, make suggestions like firing me out of a cannon. We're willing to take the boat-face type suggestions on the chin and not take ourselves too seriously in order to get the good suggestions. On those specific areas you mentioned, health tourism, absolutely we need to clamp down on that. On management, I mean, one of the things that Lord Darcy said was that it's not that we have too many managers in the NHS, we don't have effective management. In fact, I think he makes the argument in the opposite direction, which isn't the most politically convenient argument for me, because I know that less managers are more popular, but we've got to make sure we've got good managers doing the right things and genuinely adding value. And on equality, diversity and inclusion, for me, this comes down to what these people are actually doing. Because, for example, black women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women. Black men are twice as likely to die of prostate cancer than white men. Women, the majority of our country, are waiting sometimes years for an endometriosis diagnosis, which is really common. So when it comes to tackling those health inequalities, many of which can be life and death, that's where I want the focus to be. Recently, it was drawn to my attention on social media that someone was recruiting for a diversity role and lauding themselves as a practitioner in anti-whiteness. I've got no track for that kind of American import. This is just total nonsense and a distraction from what I see as serious core issues around health inequalities. I don't want the gap in our country in terms of your health and well-being to be wider based on whether you're rich or poor, whether you're black or white, whether you're a man or a woman. Those are the health inequalities I want to focus on. So I want to junk the useless stuff and the political correct stuff and focus on health inequalities.
You've got a really tight schedule today. We'd love to talk to you for much longer, but you got to go. So we'll say goodbye to you. And could we also just wish you the best of luck in your aims and your ambitions? Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Nice to talk to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, here's Mr. Paul.
Hello.
With the sports news.
Got time for a little sport? Should we do a quick bit of sport? Eric Ten Hag.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think, look, I think if I was Man United, I wouldn't be piddling about getting third-rate and fourth-rate names and whatever for a seventh manager since Alex Ferguson. They need to go to somebody like the guy at Villa. What's his name?
Yeah, Unai Emery.
Unai Emery. You know, no messing about. Just go and get somebody top-notch.
See, unfortunately, though, these days, whereas Manchester United might have been able to go, we'll have him. I don't care, we'll have him. Everybody wants to go. Is it the job that everybody wants these days? Maybe not. And I think Unai Emery's very happy where he is.
What a waste of money. You look over the past 6 years or so, the money they have squandered. And I mean, Ten Hag, he leaves with 15 million quid.
He spent 600 million. He will leave with 15 million in his back pocket. And also, with all these financial problems and regulations, Manchester United have got to be careful there because they're talking about Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon, and he seems to be the manager. There's always one, which is the sexy manager that everybody wants at the moment. The Man City were talking about him, taking over from Pep. Liverpool were talking about him. So I think he's going to be the guy. But there's a £10 million release clause on him. So 15 million goes to Erik ten Hag. There'll be 10 million that will have to go to Sporting Lisbon, should he come over. So already that's 25 million down up the Swanee. But he's apparently good, but we just don't know. So it's with Erik ten Hag, that's it. He was sacked 11 o'clock, and then he was straight off on a private plane, back to Netherlands, never to be seen
he was apparently good too. But it was his philosophy and his style. People... You're like, being a Spurs supporter, you'll understand what I mean here. If you're not going to play the club way, you're not going to play the way we're associated with playing football, you're not wanted, really. I mean, it's fans don't want you. There is a Man United way to play, and he didn't play it.
I think the thing that the fans want, I think there's an order for that. I think number one is a team that's winning, because most fans will let that go if you're winning stuff.
I agree.
Secondly, if you're not winning, you want to be playing the right football. You want to be playing that beautiful football, so at least you can go, it's great and it's entertaining. Hopefully we'll get there. Under Erik ten Hag, it was neither of those. So there was no identity, there was no winning. They're in 14th place. Haven't won in Europe for nearly a year. So it was coming, and I think it lasted a lot longer than it should have done, and it was probably the FA Cup win that kept that stay of execution.
Absolutely. It was an amazing game, an amazing win, but was it enough to give him another 5-year contract? Probably
strange,
not.
Isn't it? Very strange decision. So there we are. So he's gone. So we'll speak more. We've got Paul Hurst from The Times going to join us in an hour. He knows everything that's going on within the club and outside the club, so he'll probably have the inside track of who's coming and when.
Well, mate, we'll look forward to that. When is he coming?
He'll be with us in an hour.
OK. See you then. Thank you very much indeed.
All right, well, still to come, Claire Muldoon and Alex Armstrong will be going through the papers. This is GB News. This is Breakfast with Eamonn and Nana.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
You must be so proud of your daughter being so just amazingly brave and a model for other people who face illness.
I think we're proud of her all day, every day, and always have been. Liz has always given her all to anything she put her mind to, whether that was studying for her GCSE exams at school or whether it's been her photography and battling cancer. Liz never does anything by half, and we are so incredibly proud of her each and every day.
And Liz, I noticed a wonderful line from you saying that when you've got cancer, A-levels don't matter so much. That seems to me to be a very reasonable view to take, and has given you then the chance to do these other amazing things that you will be doing more of in future with the London Ambulance Service. And I imagine many people will want to help you with your bucket list because they've now seen you and seen how brave you are.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've already been overwhelmed by the responses and the support by so many people. I think when my mum originally posted the list, it received like 4,000 replies. It was insane, and still there's more. So from the bottom of our hearts, and especially mine, we just want to say thank you, because there's nothing that forces anyone to get in touch and say, hey, I have something you can do, pop over and do this or that, or it's just out of the generosity of their hearts. So thank you.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We have Claire Muldoon and we've got Alex Armstrong here about stories that are catching everyone's eye today. And Alex, we've just spoken to the Health Secretary and you want to talk about this extra cash that will come to the NHS, £1.5 billion. But he described the state of the NHS yesterday as dire, so that's not going to make much difference.
No, it won't, unfortunately. And there's two important things here. One, you know, the Prime Minister did say not that long ago that there would be no more cash until reform. So I think it's important that we highlight that the Prime Minister himself said that he wouldn't put any more money into the NHS until it reformed, but we are going to be putting that 1.5 billion extra. I think actually Wes said it was 1.8, but I think we'll clarify that in the budget tomorrow. This funds the NHS for 3 days, right? That's the number. That's how much money the NHS soaks in. So I think when we talk about the NHS being in a dire situation, he's not wrong. It is in a dire situation. If it's costing us 1.5 billion extra, it's just going to go 3 days into the NHS, disappear. So we have got a real issue with where our money is spent. And
my point is this, I totally agree with you, and I would hate to live in a country where there's no health provision. We take it for granted here. But my friend, I could say to you, here's £10 billion for the NHS, and it wouldn't make a darn bit of difference. You could just keep spending and spending, and I think there's a public responsibility that you've got to turn around to people and say, I'm sorry, if you have an ingrown toenail, that's up to you. You'll have to pay for that yourself. But if you need your hip replaced, that's on us.
Well, you know, Eamonn, so I spent a little bit of time in consultancy with the NHS years ago, a long time ago, about 8-9 years ago, and I was shocked when I walked into how many office buildings the NHS has over London, central London, and how many middle managers there are there.
Exactly.
All on really big salaries, big salaries. And so I think there is a lot of cost saving. People want the NHS to work for them. They want doctors, they want nurses. I saw a video yesterday of a nurse saying that she just got her back pay and that all of it's going to tax because the tax is too high. It seems to be like a culmination of problems that are really hurting our National Health Service here.
It focuses on IT as well. The IT systems within the NHS, they're Luddite at best. They just don't work. Departments don't work. E-referrals from GP practices to hospitals don't work. Self-referrals. I mean, who the hell thinks they are that they can actually go online and refer themselves after going on Dr. Google and saying, I've got X, I've got Y, I need to see that doctor. All that does is jam up the administration inflicted on the NHS. Get rid of the zero-hour contracts, get rid of middle managers, get rid of the menu that I want. Oh, I want a boob job, I want IVF, I want that. Not in the NHS, you can't.
Reassignment.
Absolutely. Gender reassignment, no, I'm sorry. Absolutely not.
We also haven't kept up with a massive population explosion we've had in this country for the last 10 years. We can all feel it.
But you say that, well, where's the story later on here where we're not breeding enough?
Well, that's a whole different thing. I'd love to talk about maybe next hour, Eamonn. Actually, it's a really good story. But you know, our services are under so much pressure. They haven't had the right type.
But the public are putting the services under pressure.
Well, they are.
And the NHS are not man enough,
they certainly are.
and they're not fit enough to turn around and say no.
But the problem is, though, there's a story about a nurse within the NHS. She is now terminally ill with cancer because over the period of time she's had about 25 cancelled appointments over a year, and now the cancer's gone to her brain.
Again, that's
this is the issue with the NHS. It's so badly organised.
The differential in postcodes. It is a postcode lottery.
But 1.4 billion or 1.8 billion or whatever, it's not going to make any difference to the prognosis.
It's not going to make it. 3 days of difference, or 4 days of difference, should I say? No,
and they also get charity money as well, because a lot of fundraising is done for trusts in the NHS.
Right. Well, a rethink as to what it provides and how we use it, I think that day is looming before everybody.
Well, I hope it comes soon, and I hope we all... I mean, I thought Wes Streeting was actually very good. I thought your questioning was great, and he will come back.
I think he's a man who cares.
He does.
He cares. Yeah. What about the budget, Claire? What about the budget? Risks hitting working people, analysts warn.
It is, and this isn't the FT.
What? Who are working people? Claire, do you know?
Have you got a cheque recently?
Strivers.
Do you have the ability to write a cheque?
Do you know? No one has a chequebook now.
That's the point.
Says the Labour government from, of course, the Prime Minister, who is the son of a toolmaker. So let's see how much...
He did own the factory, and it was he owned the business.
Working people. But look, it's only going to hit people. They're saying the hike in the national insurance contribution for employers, OK, won't actually hurt your pocket. It will, because all those small, medium enterprises will be cut. I know one company, it's going to cost them already £10,000 extra a month. That's £120,000 extra a year. What's going to give in that? There's going to be labour that's going to have to give, because that's, what, 2-3 full-time salaries? They can't keep going.
The employer's contribution.
Yes, yes.
It's been leaked that it will go up by about 2%.
Yeah, that's right. I suspect it probably will.
In the private sector, though, not in the public sector.
Well, but we're also, and I think this attack on business is really going to backfire in the long run, because, capital gains tax is expected to go up as well, which is a tax on the rich, the tax on the wealthiest, which a lot of people will agree with. But there's also a lot of people.
There's a lot of people who aren't rich.
Yeah, exactly. Investments who are trying to get into that wealth.
All the staff from John Lewis, they've got shares.
That's right. Yep. And so this working people problem that the Labour Party have created for itself, because it's a buzzword. It's a buzzword because nobody can define it in the Labour Party whatsoever.
But they can. I can define it for you.
I know you can, but they can't.
They're talking about poor people. Why does no one ever say
poor people?
Poor people.
Because that's offensive, Eamonn.
Yeah.
How dare you offend me?
Instead, you're a striver. You're a striver.
Yes. Well, they're saying they want, and basically they've got this weird phrase around it. Someone that doesn't own a business, trying to clarify these specific. Just tell us what you mean. Speak plainly.
They're impeding growth. They're impeding enterprise. They're impeding social mobility. They are not the party of the country. They're not the party of the working person. They're not.
I think there are a lot of very good political representatives in the Labour Party. I really do. I do think there's...
Wes Streeting is one, I have to say.
Wes Streeting, I think, is one of them. I don't think Keir Starmer is one of them.
No, he's not.
And can you name another one?
Rachel from Accounts. What do we think of her?
Oh, she's
Rachel Thieves.
So wait.
To be continued. That's the weather.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a cloudy day on offer today, largely dry, though there will be some spots of rain and drizzle at times. And where that cloud breaks up and we see those brighter spells is going to feel mild for the time of year. A fairly cloudy day on offer, particularly at times across the far southeast, where we'll see some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. This is similar across the far northwest of Scotland too. Fairly damp afternoon here across the far northwest Highlands, but otherwise largely dry, and seeing that cloud break up more than it did on Monday. And looking at those temperatures, it's still fairly mild for this point in October, so feeling pleasant where you catch those brighter skies. As we head through into the evening, we'll continue to see that fairly damp evening on offer in the far northwest Highlands, but elsewhere across Scotland it's going to be largely dry, even seeing some clearer spells in the far east at times too to end the day. Fairly cloudy across Northern Ireland and also northern parts of England, but once again there will be some clearer spells at times. And similar across Wales, central and southern England, a mix of cloud and clear spells as we head into the evening. Now where we see those clearer skies, we're likely to see some mist and fog develop. That could be quite stubborn to clear by the time we reach the morning. Otherwise, once again, staying largely dry overnight, still with those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the far north of Scotland, and just a slight breeze strengthening across Scotland too, but otherwise light winds and staying fairly dry with a mix of that cloud and those clearer spells. So quite a grey start as we head into Wednesday. Some mist and fog during the first part of the morning too. But generally we have high pressure building, so there's going to be lots of dry and fine weather around. They may just be quite cloudy and drab at times. We will eventually start to see some outbreaks of rain just moving into the far northern Isles later. But otherwise, a largely dry day on offer. And once again, temperatures just above average. So feeling pleasant for the time of year.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Ayrshire, the A77 is closed each way along Main Street in Ballantrae after a lorry caught fire. There are delays of up to half an hour to trains between Leeds and Hampton Bridge because of a points failure. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from Blythe to Retford after a lorry caught fire. In Leicestershire, the A511 is closed each way east of Ashby de la Zouch after an accident. In the West Midlands, Six Ways Island is closed off Newbury Road in Aston after an accident. In Bedfordshire, Hatters Way in Luton is closed because of an accident. In London, the South Circular is blocked by an accident at Catford Bridge with delays on approaches to there. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in Hampshire, the A36 is closed northbound from the Calmore Junction to the A31 northwest of Southampton because of fire services activity.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We're giving back.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, good morning. Welcome.
Well, no, that's good to say welcome, but somebody switch on some hearing, or why have I got no hearing here whatsoever?
Oh, well.
Right.
Well, good morning. It's one day till the budget of a generation. And Chancellor Rachel Reeves teases £35 billion worth of tax rises, but apparently it's still not enough to get the NHS back on its feet.
Yeah, hold on, and I'll just be with you again. There we are. Well, that despite £1.5 billion already being announced to cut down on waiting lists. Now, half an hour ago on the programme, we spoke to the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. This is what he had to say.
The NHS is not just on its knees, it's on its face. And what tomorrow's budget will give us the chance to do is arrest that decline and mark a turning point in the history of the NHS.
In a few moments, the Shadow Pension Secretary, Mel Stride, will give his I don't know what we're showing him for, but anyway. Mel Stride is who we're talking to. Budget predictions we're talking about.
Yeah. Now, listen, the price rises just keep coming. As the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, confirmed the bus fare cap will rise from £2 to £3.
A week away now from the US election, Trump and Harris neck and neck in the race for the White House as they make final pitches.
The consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious. Brutally serious.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here.
Now, here's a big question. Adult children, when do they cease being children and make a life for themselves? OK, should they be forced to leave the family home to stand on their own feet?
Well, we'll be debating that this morning as the topic divides the internet. And Sherry Lady, actress Sherry Houston, joins us this morning as she opens up about loneliness as you get older.
And in sport, Manchester United finally pulled the trigger on the beleaguered Dutchman Erik ten Hag, who walks away with 15 million quid in his back pocket, which is not bad for getting fired, is it? And on the other side of Manchester, Rodri has won the world's best footballer award, the Ballon d'Or, whilst Real Madrid boycott the ceremony.
Hello, good morning. A cloudy and grey day on offer, though there will be some brighter spells in places. Stay tuned and I'll have all your details later.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Nana Aquia. This is GB News Breakfast.
And of course, if we didn't like being here, we could just walk out, as Real Madrid did at the
Oh, I see. Well, you're very good.
Yes,
They did. Well, Real Madrid, this is at the Ballon d'Or yesterday, so they call it the World Football Awards, right? And this is the big one. Although it's from a French magazine, so it's all done in France, in Paris. And the rumour was, it was expected that Vinicius Junior, fantastic Brazilian footballer, plays for Real Madrid, he was going to win. Then word got out that it wasn't going to be him, and it was Rodri from Manchester City. So Real Madrid said, right, we're off. That's it. Just because they didn't win. So anybody to do with Real Madrid did not turn up then at the ceremony, and they went home.
No Carlo Ancelotti?
No.
Yeah.
Not even Carlo.
Do you know, I went to a petrol station, which was near Chelsea's training ground, when he was the manager of Chelsea. And there was a guy pulled up in a white van, and he went to me, autograph, you see? And I went, yeah, fine. So he came out and he got me to sign something for him. And he said to me, Mr. Ancelotti, I love everything you're doing.
He did. Start talking like this. Go, well, thank you very much.
Don Carlo, Don Eamonn. I like it. Don Eamonn. You can get used to that.
Carlo Ancelotti, George Clooney. Who else is there for crying out loud?
Well, listen, you've got a little game later on for us. Is that in this hour we're doing?
This is. I got the best looking out. Like
right. So we'll
it's
don't tell people who it is. But
this is a tease. Stick around and find out who Garnacho looks like.
Yeah.
It is, but it is unbelievable. Isn't it?
It is. I have to say,
Yeah,
very good, very good. All right, here we go. One day to go until the budget tomorrow. The Chancellor has warned that tax hikes and borrowing increases may not be enough to undo 14 years of damage to the NHS by the Conservatives, she says.
Well, speaking at St George's Hospital, she said that staff are using equipment purchased under the last Labour government, which should have been replaced.
Well, earlier we spoke to the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. This is what he had to say.
There's no beating about the bush about it, whether it's the size of the waiting list, the fact that people can't guarantee an ambulance turns up on time, the struggle to get a GP appointment or a dentist, the waits in A&E. The NHS is not just on its knees, it's on its face. And what tomorrow's budget will give us the chance to do is arrest that decline and mark a turning point in the history of the NHS and in the decline we've seen over the last 14 years.
Former governmental advisor Oscar Reddrop is here in the studio with us. What I think he's done quite an interesting thing. Whether he intends to act on it or not, I don't know. But he's got a website that you can go to and you can put your ideas of how you could improve the NHS. And people have been doing that with us this morning.
I bet, yeah.
You should maybe be careful what he asks for.
Yeah, we've got one of those.
Have you had some interesting interesting requests?
People don't like agency staff, for instance, like middle management. They're told they think all that should be gone. Tony Blair comes in for a lot of criticism because he did this emphasis that nurses should be educated to degree standard. And I have to admit, I don't think that's necessary at all.
Well, also, they have to pay for their own training now as well, don't they? They used to get a bursary.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that probably a common thread, and I know this happened on Wes's website, probably shines through in your comments as well, is that if the Labour Party, who've been rolling the pitch for this budget for what feels like an eternity, if they're telling us how grim it's going to be and that ultimately, despite their manifesto pledges, it's actually interesting, when you go back to the manifesto pledge, they've been let slightly off the hook on this.
Well, listen, Mel Stride, Shadow Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, is here. We'll come back to you in a moment, Oscar, and he joins us now. Mel, I don't know whether you got a chance to hear what Wes Streeting had to say. Did you get a chance to hear what he said? And if you did, what are your thoughts?
Well, look, we know that there's a lot of pressure on the NHS, and of course COVID in substantial form caused a lot of that. And of course, where we can support the government in getting waiting lists down, of course we will do so. I think the concern about the latest announcement is it sounds like just much more money going into the NHS, but without, alongside it, a clear plan for improving productivity. Because what we know with the NHS is we've got more money going to the NHS than at any time in its history. We've got more staff, more doctors and more nurses, and yet the output is not where it should be. Now, we had a very clear productivity plan under the last budget, £3.4 billion going into that, and we've heard nothing from Labour on productivity in the NHS at all, other than that they're going to go out and consult the public. And given they've been in opposition for 14 years, that's just not good enough.
Mel, you're a very experienced politician, and there you are, you use that term productivity. People don't care less. People want to hear about caring. They want to hear about being looked after. They want to hear that somebody's there for them to make them better.
Yep.
But, you know, guys like yourself, you're tied into this business speak all the time. Get them in, get them out, whether they're cured or not.
Well, no, look, I think everybody agrees right across the political spectrum the vital role that the NHS plays in all our lives. It does an extraordinary job, and it is absolutely vital to a civilised society that we have that care there right at the heart of our society. But nonetheless, we have to be realistic. If we are going to have an NHS that is going to cope with an ever-ageing population, for example, greater expectations on the NHS in terms of more expensive cures and drugs and treatments and so on, and also the backlogs that we're looking at, then we are, I'm afraid, going to have to start talking more, and this government's not doing this, about productivity. Because unless you can get productivity up, and it's actually declined in the NHS since COVID, unless you can get it up, you're not going to get through those backlogs. And that's the missing part of what the government have announced this morning. There is no plan for improving productivity, and that needs to be brought forward. We had one, and they don't.
Well, do you accept the criticism that all of this, that over the 14 years, lots of the equipment wasn't replaced, and this was due to the incompetence of your government at the time?
No, I think there were huge pressures on the National Health Service, particularly occasioned by COVID and the kind of challenges that we had at that point. But look, I think what we can all agree on is we need to get investment up within the National Health Service, not so much the day-to-day spending with wages and so on and so forth, but actually on the infrastructure, on the systems, on the computer systems, the IT and so on. You know, we will work with the government to do whatever we can to improve that. But if you're to do that, you do need to have a clear plan. And what Wes Streeting has said is he's out to consultation, he wants to hear what the public have to say, etc., and we won't learn what that is until next year. And I don't think that's good enough. We had a clear productivity plan. We had £3.4 billion in the last budget that we delivered for that purpose, and that's the route that you need to go. We're not hearing anything on that from the government, I'm afraid. We've heard a lot over many years about more and more money going into the NHS. Outputs do matter. We do need to make sure that we can show that care and compassion to more people and do it efficiently.
Where are they going to get that money from? Where's this is the real thing, Mel, that people, we hear about, they need money, where are they going to get it from? And your pensions role that you have there, I just wonder, are they going to stick their hand into people's pockets as regards pensions? So if you draw down your pension or you cash in your pension, is more of that going to go back to the government or not? What do you think?
Well, we'll find out tomorrow, Eamonn, where they're going to go into our pockets, but go into our pockets they most certainly will. And this is really pretty poor, because during the general election, of course, the Labour Party were at great pains to tell us we didn't have to have any fears about raised taxes. In fact, they ruled out taxes that account for about 75% of the tax yield in the UK. But of course, now they've come into office, they've confected this apparent black hole in the finances as an alibi to now go and raise taxes left, right and centre. And as to your question about a raid on pensions, that is quite possible. They could put national insurance up on on employers' contributions into pensions. They could change the relief arrangements on individuals putting money into pensions. We saw that actually with Gordon Brown back in 1997 when nothing was said during the general election campaign. Then he raided private pensions to the tune of £118 billion in terms of their value. So who knows? But what I do know is, firstly, we were told something very different by this party before they got into office. And secondly, you mentioned welfare, Eamonn. It's vital that we grip the spiralling welfare bill, which is something that I was doing when I was Secretary of State. We went to the country with a manifesto that was very clear. We would save £12 billion from the welfare bill over this Parliament. And if you do that, which is the right thing to do at every level, then of course you don't need to start raising the kind of taxes that this government is going to be doing tomorrow.
But Mel, when you talk about getting £12 billion from the welfare bill, what do you mean by that? Who would that affect?
So what we know, Eamonn, is that if you look at the total amount spent, for example, on those that have disability benefits and are of working age, if we were to keep that number the same in 5 years' time as it is today, that would save £14 billion. If we got it back to where that number was before the pandemic, it would save £32 billion. I, in office, showed that by getting to grips with things like long-term sickness and disability benefits, you could save billions of pounds. It is entirely doable, once again, if you have a plan. Now, the Labour Party said nothing about welfare during the run-up to the general election. They really said nothing about welfare, actually, in their manifesto, certainly not about containing the spiralling welfare bills. But unless you're prepared to do that, then I'm afraid the alternative is things like clobbering businesses with more tax. You know, national insurance, employers' national insurance going up a couple of percent is going to cripple businesses up and down this country. And it's a choice that they didn't need to make.
All right, and I just wanted to ask you about wastage within the NHS, because I did put the question to Wes that there's billions that have been wasted within the organisation. So, as Alex earlier pointed out, 1.5 billion is about 3 days' worth of coverage for the NHS. I mean, the money that they're raising, there's literally no point to it, is it? But what's the point of the 1.5 billion if nothing else really changes?
Well, no, that's exactly my point. So what I think you're really saying is there's no point in just pouring more money in if you've got a system that, as Wes Streeting says, is not working as it should. What you need is a plan. You need a clear, as we had a long-term workforce plan, you need a clear productivity plan. It then needs to be properly funded. And if you have that plan, then you can start to squeeze out these inefficiencies, reorganise, invest in the areas you need to invest to get productivity and output up in the National Health Service so it can do more of that compassionate thing of helping people up and down the country. But without that plan, I'm afraid it's going to be the same old, same old.
Mel Stride, got to leave it there. Thanks for your input today, getting us all thinking. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, so much to think about there.
Well, there is, but it's wasted. For me, it's just the wastage. Let's come back to Oscar about this.
No. I'm saying it's not just wastage. People are sicker. They pretend they're sick. I'm telling you something really scary. Anytime I go to Heathrow Airport, there is a queue for, as and I, a lot of the time I'm in a wheelchair, there's a queue for disabled passengers. And there's one flight, I won't say where it's going to, but every week the queue for disabled people on that flight just goes on for miles and miles. That no one will get on the plane unless they're on a wheelchair. It's absolutely incredible. So what I'm talking about, I'm talking about fat people, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about people who need somebody else to hold them on and whatever. And if I'm going to do... How many sick people are there in this country?
Well, look, I get that, and I agree that people need to take more personal responsibility. I would have an NHS that has people investing in their own healthcare directly so they can feel the impact of the money. It's like paying with cash or a credit card. You can't feel it on the credit card, so you don't think about it. But if there's money coming out of your hands that you can see it now. So I would say that really... And number one, get rid of the waste. It's billions that they're wasting. It's not like there's a couple of million. It's like something like 20, 30 billion. And yet but they are...
Do you know what?
That's the first thing they should do.
No one's going to tackle that. No one's going to do...
No, it's too brave a political problem.
Why don't they do that?
But I've been looking through your comments, GB News viewers, and all of them are saying we can't just chuck money into a broken system. You wouldn't do it in any other aspect of life. And they're right. Just very, very quickly, from a Conservative perspective, I'm really shocked that they're not going harder at what we're going to get tomorrow, because not only are we going to see tax rises in May many different forms, and they've been kind of sleight of hand about it, Labour and Rachel Reeves. But they actually said before the election, Labour Party, and check the footage, check the tapes, check the interviews, that taxes would come down. It's not, it's a real disgrace, that. And I think in the months ahead, the electorate will not forgive them for that.
What gets me is they don't have to pay this black hole off. They don't have to. They could turn a blind eye to it for 2 years or whatever it happens to be, or they can pay part of it off, or they can make savings elsewhere. And they're not making savings. They're just taxing and clubbing together, hitting employers, workers, whoever they are, strivers, workers. They can't identify what a working person is. But if they want to help poor people, but it's true.
I'm just laughing at the working person. I can see Keir Starmer now.
I mean, what a fudgy mess that was. There's something quite condescending about it as well. Like, as Prime Minister, I'm going to decide who is... It's just like, leave it alone, mate. It's been really cringy watching him trying to somehow cobble together what working... And who are you to tell me what a working person is?
Exactly. Well, look, thank you very much, Oscar. Hopefully you'll be back again. Let's have a quick
Cheers, Oscar. Thank you.
Let's have a quick look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom.
Some breaking news in the past hour. At least 55 Palestinians have been killed. This was a strike, an airstrike on the Gazan city of Bel Lahia. That's according to Hamas media.
The funeral of former Scottish First Minister Alex Salmond will take place this afternoon in his home village of Stricken. He died earlier this month from a heart attack whilst attending a conference in North Macedonia.
Hedgehogs. Bad news of your hedgehog. Experts are warning the spiky animal is near threatened category and could go extinct after steady decline in numbers over the past 20 years. Hedgehogs have been moving closer to towns and cities in order to stay close to food sources, which is leading to more being run down by traffic. How come seagulls get away with it? I mean, seagulls have got that master. There's more seagulls, not less of them, and they come and they steal your chips and anything on the street or whatever it happens to be.
It's because hedgehogs are slow, and then people are feeding them, and they go, "Oh, there's a bowl of food across the road. I'll have to," and they forget that they're so slow, and it's really sad.
And then they're squashed.
So oh, bless
over
them.
the top of them.
Oh, they're so cute as well. It is really quite sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
wonder is there anything for them in the budget?
I doubt it.
I doubt it. Honor Criswick, good morning.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a cloudy day on offer today, largely dry, though there will be some spots of rain and drizzle at times. And where that cloud breaks up and we see those brighter spells is going to feel mild for the time of year. A fairly cloudy day on offer, particularly at times across the far southeast, where we'll see some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. This is similar across the far northwest of Scotland too. Fairly damp afternoon here across the far northwest Highlands, but otherwise largely dry, and seeing that cloud break up more than it did on Monday. And looking at those temperatures, it's still fairly mild for this point in October, so feeling pleasant where you catch those brighter skies. As we head through into the evening, we'll continue to see that fairly damp evening on offer in the far northwest Highlands, but elsewhere across Scotland it's going to be largely dry, even seeing some clearer spells in the far east at times too to end the day. Fairly cloudy across Northern Ireland and also northern parts of England, but once again there will be some clearer spells at times. And similar across Wales, central and southern England, a mix of cloud and clear spells as we head into the evening. Now where we see those clearer skies, we're likely to see some mist and fog develop. That could be quite stubborn to clear by the time we reach the morning. Otherwise, once again, staying largely dry overnight, still with those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the far north of Scotland, and just a slight breeze strengthening across Scotland too, but otherwise light winds and staying fairly dry with a mix of that cloud and those clearer spells. So quite a grey start as we head into Wednesday, some mist and fog during the first part of the morning too, but generally we have high pressure building, so there's going to be lots of dry and fine weather around, though it may just be quite cloudy and drab at times. We will eventually start to see some outbreaks of rain just moving into the far northern Isles later, but otherwise a largely dry day on offer, and once again temperatures just above average, so feeling pleasant for the time of year.
expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
What's the NHS plan for dentists, asks David. Caroline says, just how much more money does the NHS need? How about getting rid of non-jobs and putting bloated wages to good use?
Rex says, Tony Blair broke the NHS, introducing the need for a university degree for nurses, which was a brilliant vocation before this. Good
Yeah,
point.
you could see that people loved this, and they may not be of university standard or degree standard, and they may be, but this is what I was trying to say to Mel Stride there. Surely when you're in hospital, it's about being cared for. A lot of it, yes, of course, there's an expertise that specialists have to, you know, make sure you're okay and whatever. But I do think that, again, a lot of it's just about care, which I have to say, from my experience over the past 10 years in various hospitals, you tend to not get so much with agency staff. And I could be quite specific about this. You know, I couldn't walk. I couldn't get up on my feet, right? And I simply asked a nurse I said, could you help me on my feet, just by the bed, and I'll go to my walking frame here. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. We need 2 people to do that. All this rules and regulations and can't do that. That's not my job, you know. I'll report you if you're disrespectful to me. All this blooming nonsense.
Well, it's an
too much of this
excuse
going
to do
on.
nothing. But David says, Eamonn, could you ask? And I did actually ask Wes what he intends to do about the waste in the NHS and use of outside contract nurses. We didn't quite get to that specific
Well, I tell you,
question.
one of the things we should do.
But they get 4 times more money than the other nurses.
Yes, they do. They absolutely
the point
do.
that you were making.
Absolutely. And also the drunks at the weekend in A&E.
Should pay for their own, you know,
Absolutely.
like
You should say before they do anything, could you blow into this bag? Yes, you're drunk. Can I have your credit card? And then we'll sort out, we'll send you a bill in 2 weeks' time. Or if it's not your fault, we'll forget it. But if it is your fault, boom.
I think people should be. I think if you miss an appointment, you should be charged, and you won't get another one until you've actually paid back the debt from the appointment that you've missed. If you don't let them know that you're missing that appointment, that's the big thing. Wes talked about doing that or something beforehand, and then suddenly they're in power, none of it.
Respect and understanding, and realising it's not free. It all has to be paid for at some time of the year. And if you're looking to pay for things, what better to pay for Christmas? Christmas, your entire Christmas could be paid for on us. Have a go.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas.
Very good luck to you. Still to come. Up next, we're talking about, if you're a parent, how old should your kids be to still live with you? And if they are 35, should you be saying, on your bike?
Oh, I don't want mine to leave.
How old are you?
One's 7 and one's
Yes, but that's the difference. There's a difference. They're not 35.
That's a good point.
Right, OK. Back after this. Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight
and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute. kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Soaring costs and costs of living mean more adults are now living with their parents than they have certainly in 10 years.
But when does it become more like an unwelcome house share with an overdue eviction notice?
Well, that's what we're debating this morning. When should adult children be forced to sling their hook? OK? Joining us now in the studio to debate this, political commentator Chloe Dobbs and presenter and commentator Danielle Mason. Lovely to see both of you.
Thank you. Right, Danielle, you've got children.
Yes.
What ages are they, and when should they sling their hook?
So, at the moment, my children are 11 and 13, and I would say no, I'm not going to kick my adult children out until they're ready to leave the nest. I mean, look at the state of the economy. You're looking at debt. They can stay in education longer if they want a proper career. Say if they wanted to be journalists, go to uni. Otherwise, they're going to be coming out in a lot of debt. We've also got house prices soaring at the moment, the cost of living. You're looking at big deposits to put down for mortgages. I mean, when I was younger, I was itching to move out. I moved to London. I had some savings. Well, they went in 6 months and I was back home again. But whereas if you're staying at home...
Did you not earn any money?
Yes, I was earning money,
but... on your savings?
No.
Of course they're going to run out.
Earning money, but not enough.
Yes, not enough.
Not enough.
But if you look, they can go travelling, they can get a good career, they can focus on their career, what they want to do, rather than, oh, my God, I've got bills, I've got food, I've got this, I've got that. So I think just let them go at their own pace.
Well, you see, I think Danielle, Chloe, I think she's looking at this... when her kids are 35, she's still viewing them as 11 and 13. She's looking at them as the children that they are now, not the men and women they will be in a few years' time.
Yeah, I think that, you know, mothers will always absolutely adore their children and want to always love them and, you know, often mollycoddle them a bit. But I think sometimes kids need tough love. And what you say, Danielle, about, you know, you don't want them having this panic about rent, bills and food, I think that's good. I think that helps you mature, helps you become a responsible adult, gets you to sort out your finances. There are so many, I mean, when I went to university, there were so many, I felt like my peers there. I had gone on a gap year before, gone to London at 18, no money, worked my butt off in a pub to make sure I met the bills. And that made me so much more mature. I had good communication skills from talking to people, doing a hospitality job. And if you're doing a job at 18 or whatever to make ends meet, it's probably going to be hospitality. That's so, so good for you. When I got to university then a year later, I felt like I was surrounded by children. They don't know how to cook food. They only know how to make microwave meals. They don't know how to turn on washing machines. They have no idea how to take care of themselves. Parents need to give kids a little bit of tough love. I think also when they are teenagers and kids, you need to prepare them for that. So making sure you don't always cook dinner.
But we should also say you're not a parent.
I'm not, no.
You're not a parent. You see, you might speak differently when you get to Danielle's stage and that love kicks. What is it that kicks in? What is it that's protective?
Stress. No, I've got to say, you know, children are very stressful. They are. But, I mean, I've already started teaching my daughter to cook, to clean. She's 11, so she, you know, I'm not saying she gets around the cooker and things like that, but I'm teaching her these things already. But I think, you know, if you're not ready to move out, you can end up getting in more debt and then ending back at home. I mean, things have changed since I moved out. I mean, everything's so much more expensive now. And it seems to me like the only people that are getting on the mortgage ladder, the young adult kids, is people that are from wealthy backgrounds that have got a big deposit to put down, because you need 5%, 20% to get on the mortgage ladder. It's very hard, and rent is through the roof at the moment.
Well, to be fair,
they can give me the rent, but I'll make it cheaper.
To be fair, there's nothing more unattractive than a 40-year-old man who lives with his mother.
Yeah, there's that as well.
That would actually turn. So if you were in the dating market to meet a guy in the pub and you say, who are you, what are you? And it's, I'm 40 years of age. Where do you live? With my mum.
One of the first questions that I ask on a first date is, who are you living with? Because then you find out quite quickly if they're living with their parents. And more often, they are still living with their parents.
And they would be history in your book then?
Yeah, that's it. Gone. Okay. Immature.
Guys, got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. You at home have your say. What would you do? What's your view on adult children living at home?
Oh, my kids are my only friends, so I don't want them to go.
They're your only friends?
Yeah, I've got the other friends and that. Those two. Well, and the thing is, because they're young, they can't really run away, otherwise they'll starve. So they have to stay with me.
Coming up, Eric Ten Hag is gone. We're going to be joined by Manchester United correspondent Paul Hurst. This is GB News. Back with the sport.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In South Ayrshire, the A77 is closed each way along Main Street in Ballantrae after a lorry caught fire. There are delays of up to 3/4 of an hour to trains between Leeds and Hebden Bridge because of a points failure. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from Blythe to Retford after a lorry caught fire. In the West Midlands, Sixways Island in Aston is closed after an accident. In London, the South Circular is closed each way at Catford after an accident causing long delays. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour. In westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. On the M23 in Surrey, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 9 and 8 from Gatwick Airport to the M25, causing queues. And in Hampshire, the A36 is closed northbound from the Kelmore junction to the A31 northwest of Southampton because of fire services activity. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christies tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christies tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Got Paul now all over the back pages today, the Eric Ten Hag situation, and we're now going to speak to the Manchester correspondent for The Times. He covers City, covers United, Paul Hurst.
Yes, Paul, who will know everything that's going on. He's on the line right now. Morning, Paul.
Morning. How are we doing?
Yeah, really good to see you. Thanks a lot for your time. I'm sure you've been really busy over this. He's been a dead man walking for quite some time, though, Eric Ten Hag. Do you think there's part of him that's relieved that this has finally come to an end?
Yeah, I agree. He has been a dead man walking for at least a month. We know that the board met after the Tottenham game last month or at the start of this month, and they decided then that the future for Man United was not with Eric Ten Hag. And the board were just trying to put steps into place as to how to replace him. You know, who do they go for next? How do they work the compensation out, etc. So that's what's been going on over the last few weeks. And
Paul, the question I have for you is, why hasn't he been replaced? Because it's an open secret they've been talking to other people, Tuchel being one of them, maybe Gareth Southgate. But they've approached names and they haven't got anyone yet. Why?
Well, I think that for me was the key error that Ineos made. That by talking to these people, as you say, Eamonn, they undermined the manager. You know, you can't tell me that a player would have looked at a manager and thought, right, I'll give my all for you this season, because they don't know that he's going to be there in a few weeks' time. So I think it was a real error from Ineos, that, and then backing him in the transfer market as well, with £200 million worth of signings, and it's almost got to a point now in the league where you think, is this a write-off? You know, the season they're closer to the bottom of the table than they are the top. So whoever comes in next has got a huge task on their hands to try and lift the club.
You know what amazes me, Paul, and that's you think as savvy as Jim Radcliffe and Ineos are, after the FA Cup, it was almost like they were blinded by love, that this is now going to be the change. We're now going to give you a 5-year contract. That's the Manchester United one we want to see. Whereas most of us were just thinking, isn't this just like a one-off game and we've seen them play really well? And then, obviously, it's come to pass that they're not that good. So isn't it bizarre that they actually gave him that contract in the first place?
It was very bizarre. I mean, over the last few years, the club have made decisions based purely on emotion that have cost them. There was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer handed him a contract when he clearly wasn't up to it after they beat PSG in the Champions League. And then the FA Cup final, like you say, amazing day for Man United, amazing day for the fans, amazing performance. But you only had to look at what preceded that to know that Ten Hag was taking United on a downward trajectory. So, yeah, it was a very bizarre decision to extend his contract. For me, it would have been just a far more logical step just to get rid of Ten Hag, say, thank you very much in the summer. You won us the FA Cup. You can leave with your head held high, and then we move on to the next guy.
It seemed like Ineos, though, I think Eamonn will agree that they seem like a company that don't have that emotion, you know, the way they're dealing with things at the moment. And I'm surprised that they ended up going that way, don't you think?
Yes, I agree completely. I mean, they have been very ruthless in terms of the cuts to the staff. 250 staff have been laid off. Some of them very, very questionable decisions to lay them off, like quite low earning staff, particularly when you consider how much money they've wasted on players over the last few years. So yes, it was a very, very abnormal decision from Ineos when you consider their previous their other actions since they took over United.
Well, who are they going for? Who is your money on?
I think Ruben Amorim is what we are told that he's the leading candidate. He's the preferred candidate at the moment. Sporting Lisbon manager, 39 years old, won the title over there twice in 4 years. He's really highly regarded, plays attacking football, what United fans love to see, obviously. Has a lot of trust in youth as well, which is something that is important to United as a club and their fan base. So it looks like he's the preferred candidate, and they're in talks with Sporting at the moment, and it all seems to be pointing in that direction.
Final question, Paul. Will City be looking for a new manager next year?
Oof. They put me on the spot.
Is it true Pep's coming to Spurs? That's the question we're...
Yeah, funnily enough, Paul, I've not heard that rumour. But yeah, it's. I think he's more likely to stay than he is to go at the moment. But I generally, the decision has not been made. That's what I was told as recently as sort of 2-3 weeks ago. So City staff don't know, but you know, if you can see all the arguments for him to stay, to make it up to around 10 years. They're dominating so much at the moment that there's every reason that he should stay. The England job is not there anymore. So, yeah, why not make it around 10 and stay for another year?
Cheers, Paul. Thanks very much. Thank you. Good talking to you. Nice hearing from you. Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah.
Great article he's written in the Times as well today about everything, so he knows what's going on.
Right, I'll be having a
Amorim
read
is
of
the
that.
guy, I reckon, by the end of the week.
Good man. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll take a break there.
All right, let's do it.
And still to come, we'll find out why the House of Commons Speaker branded Rachel Reeves discourteous, OK? After this.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Online dating apps are still the go-to for millions of British adults, with 1 in 10 using them to look for a romantic connection.
Yes, are you one of them? Let us know. But with many apps introducing subscription fees and complex algorithms, the world of online dating has never been harder to navigate. So who better to join us to discuss this than Mr. Tinder himself, Stefan Pierre Tomlin. You have been dubbed Britain's best-looking eligible bachelor.
Yeah, so this happened back in 2016. Got an email from Tinder, and it was like, "You're the most swiped man on Tinder."
So just explain to us, for viewers who don't know, what is swiping? What does that mean on Tinder?
Yeah, so on Tinder, the app, if you swipe left, that means you don't like the person in front of you, and if you swipe to the right, that means you like that person.
Do you mind still being associated with that? It's a good...
Well, I mean, yeah, it made me who I am now, and I love sharing how I was successful, and now I'm like a dating expert.
What's your situation now? Are you with anyone? Are you still single, paying the bill?
So I'm seeing someone at the minute. Things are going well, and I'm a dating expert, so I'm always giving advice to people.
Does she know your title of most swiped?
Of course, who doesn't? It's quite hard. It's quite hard being the most swiped man on Tinder because you get a label on you. So I find it harder than anyone else, to be honest.
And where did you meet her? That's the big question.
At an event.
So not on Tinder?
Not on Tinder, ironically. Yeah.
So for all that troubled online, it's actually a real life rendezvous. Which,
I mean, I have met people on Tinder in the past, and it has worked. Well, it didn't work, but yeah.
I need to know how to do the famous Stefan Smolder.
That camera is not a camera. That is your best friend, that's your lover. So you really smiles from the camera, so it goes like this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A bus fare cap. What is the point? We've got Alex and we've got Claire here to talk the papers. What's the point of a bus fare cap?
Do you know what? I don't think it's so much the fact that it's going up. I think it's another thing that the Labour government are trying to do to discriminate people, because people living in rural areas will rely on this £2 bus fare, which doesn't seem a lot of money. And in fact, the increase of 50% to £3 on the face of it doesn't seem that much. However, it's yet again them getting at people who are using these bus services in rural areas. They're not students. They're not people with cars. They're people relying on the service. And if you to go to work, probably, or even pensioners that want a bit of a day out, they want to go to the shops, they won't be able to do it.
Free pension. Because my mum, she's of a certain age, you get free bus rides and things like that.
In different, that's all dependent on the local authority. TfL do it for 60, but they're pushing, there's mooting points to push that up. And to be honest with you, if Sadiq Khan tries to do anything like that, I think he is going to end up being voted out because of increased knife crime, increased TfL. And don't forget, TfL, if you've ever used it in the past 6 weeks, they've got a massive IT problem. So you're actually getting charged twice for using some cards.
Really?
Yes, you must check your bank statements.
I must do
So
that.
back to this £3 tariff. It's very sad. I don't think it's going to be helpful for anyone living in rural communities. It will cut people off physically, environmentally and geographically.
Well, I think the important number that I think was thrown about yesterday was £70. And that's the extra that it will cost people over the course of 4 weeks. So if you rely on the bus, that's a lot of money for a pensioner. Pensioners living on 11
weeks.
Yeah. So pensioners living on what, 11 grand a year? 70 quid an extra a month is a lot of money.
But it depends if their bus fares are free or not. Because
that's very true, Nana. That's very true. It will vary, but I think again this is a rise of tax in some way on some working people somewhere, right?
All right. Well, let's move on to this one, Alex. The Speaker accuses the Chancellor of discourtesy over the budget. What's that about?
No, what I like about this story, and Lindsay Hoyle has spoken out about this before, these politicians, they come on and they will say, when it suits them, of course, I can't reveal what the budget has in store. I can't talk about what's going to happen on Wednesday before it's actually announced by the Chancellor. And then they spend Sunday and Monday and Tuesday previewing what suits them, take attention away from any bad things. They all speak.
I think they're doing that to temper the markets, actually, as well, which is a bit sneaky of them.
Well, they're scared of doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're all right. It's a mixture of all these things.
Let's just see, Lindsay.
Let's have a look at it.
It's a bit hot under the collar here. Here we go.
Honourable members may be wondering how they will get a seat on Wednesday. Well, to be quite honest, the way it's going, you won't need to. We'll have all heard it first in here. It's not acceptable. I don't want it to continue, and I want to treat this House with the respect it deserves. I'm not whether this side or that side. It is totally unacceptable to go around the world telling everybody rather than these members. They were elected by the constituents of this country, and they deserve to be treated better, whatever. And isn't it funny? When it was the previous party, it was the opposite side that was complaining to me. Get your acts together, all sides. Treat members with respect.
OK.
Oof. Pretty harsh words from Lindsay Hoyle there. And he did, to be fair, do this to successive chancellors on the Tory benches, so he's being fair. But this really comes as, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has briefed the American press about elements of her budget, which I think is a pretty shocking thing to do. You're not even going after the British press.
But Claire has a theory about this.
Yeah, it's only because she's trying to warm up to what's happening across the pond, but also she doesn't want to rattle the markets. But really, should societies be built on intransient things like stocks and shares? That is so sad that we cannot rely on something that we've manufactured, something that we actually trade, and then yet it's down to the markets all the time.
The thing about this budget is we've waited a really long time for it. We've given Rachel Reeves the longest time ever to release a budget. That's because she wanted to give it to the OBR to pressure test everything. But we've seen leak after leak after leak on this budget to try and, like you say, temper the market, have a Liz Truss-style crash in the economy. It doesn't seem like it's going very well anyway.
It's a slow-motion car crash rather than an immediate one.
Right.
Because, of course, 1,600 small businesses have closed down.
That's right.
And more are continuing to do it, and pubs are closing.
So we're hearing it, and people are leaving in their droves.
Do you know what? The other thing I don't trust about her is the fact she's going to stand at that dispatch box and not have a drink.
Yeah.
Not even a latte, not even an oat milk latte.
I don't even drink, and I would have had a drink. Let's talk about Christmas.
Yes.
And Christmas creep. Now, Christmas creep means that no sooner does July finish, and basically we're promoting Christmas in the shops.
Yeah, not quite August, but you're close. October. How many of us have actually gone into stores now, heard Christmas music play, saw the mince pies in the ambient aisle or the bakery aisle, and looked getting your sparkly lights out and getting your trees up? And I know some of your GB News listeners have got their lights up already. They've already texted in to say, and I think it's just wonderful. I love Christmas.
I think they're all absolutely nuts. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's absolutely balmy. I was walking down Regent Street the other day, and some of the big department stores have got their decorations up.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it's not even been Halloween.
But it doesn't matter.
In a few days.
We need some hope. We need some hope. We need some light in our world.
How many days of Christmas? You know, it's like
12.
Well, how happened to the 12? Right, we're
multiplied.
About, what, 40?
We've gone to Rachel from accounts, and she's came back with this big number.
Complaints department from HBOS is Rachel Thieves. Is more like Rachel Thieves stealing Christmas from
I understand the shops put dress in their windows, and they have got a sale and all that sort of thing. In a way, I understand that, though I do think it's far too early. But I don't understand why you would put up your Christmas lights in October at home.
No, I don't understand that either. But people do.
It's bonkers.
People
it's
do.
Totally bonkers. You've got to be off the rocker.
Do you know what? I think we're living in such horrible, despairing times that a wee bit of hope, a wee bit of light, what's the problem?
Yeah, there's that old nut, Claire Muldoon. She's got her tree up.
She does, doesn't she? Yeah.
Goodness.
Don't you get involved.
And Nigel Lawson, we've only got 20 seconds. Tell me in 15 seconds, Nigel Lawson.
To tell you what I would do, but I haven't read the story.
She's in the Greg's advert for Christmas.
Right, there you go.
When you come back, all right, Alex Armstrong and also Claire Muldoon.
Who's not a nut.
Very much. Right, let's get an update on your weather with Honor Criswick.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a cloudy day on offer today, largely dry, though there will be some spots of rain and drizzle at times. And where that cloud breaks up and we see those brighter spells is going to feel mild for the time of year. A fairly cloudy day on offer, particularly at times across the far southeast, where we'll see some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. This is similar across the far northwest of Scotland too. Fairly damp afternoon here across the far northwest Highlands, but otherwise largely dry, and seeing that cloud break up more than it did on Monday. And looking at those temperatures, it's still fairly mild for this point in October, so feeling pleasant where you catch those brighter skies. As we head through into the evening, we'll continue to see that fairly damp evening on offer in the far northwest Highlands, but elsewhere across Scotland it's going to be largely dry, even seeing some clearer spells in the far east at times too to end the day. Fairly cloudy across Northern Ireland and also northern parts of England, but once again there will be some clearer spells at times. And similar across Wales, central and southern England. Now where we see those clearer skies, we're likely to see some mist and fog develop. That could be quite stubborn to clear by the time we reach the morning. Otherwise, once again, staying largely dry overnight, still with those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the far north of Scotland. And just a slight breeze strengthening across Scotland too, but otherwise light winds and staying fairly dry with a mix of that cloud and those clearer spells. So quite a grey start as we head into Wednesday. Some mist and fog during the first part of the morning too, but generally we have high pressure building, so there's going to be lots of dry and fine weather around, though may just be quite cloudy and drab at times. We will eventually start to see some outbreaks of rain just moving into the far northern Isles later, but otherwise a largely dry day on offer, and once again temperatures just above average, so feeling pleasant for the time of year.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Lancashire, the A583 is closed each way along Rivers Way at Ashton-on-Ribble after an accident. There are delays of up to 3/4 of an hour to trains between Leeds and Hebden Bridge because of a points failure. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from Blythe to Retford after a lorry caught fire. In the West Midlands, Sixways Island at Aston is closed because of an accident. In London, the North Circular is closed in both directions at Catford after an accident with long delays towards there. And as you divert on the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks with delays too on the clockwise M25 towards there. In Hampshire, the A36 is closed northbound from the Calmore Junction to the A31 northwest of Southampton because of fire services activity. And in Cornwall, the A389 is closed each way between Washaway and Slades Bridge after an accident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Weekend. This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there. One day till the budget of a generation.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, teases £35 billion worth of tax rises, but apparently it's still not enough to get the NHS back on its feet.
Despite £1.5 billion already being announced to cut down on waiting lists. Earlier, we spoke to the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
The NHS is not just on its knees, it's on its face. And what tomorrow's budget will give us the chance to do is arrest that decline and mark a turning point in the history of the NHS.
And Shadow Secretary for Work and Pensions Mel Stride raised concerns over productivity in the NHS.
I think the concern about the latest announcement is it sounds like just much more money going into the NHS, but without, alongside it, a clear plan for improving productivity.
The price rises just keep coming after the Prime Minister confirmed that the bus fare cap in England will rise from £2 to £3.
1 week out, Trump and Harris are neck and neck in the race for the White House as they make their final pitches.
The consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious. Brutally serious.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here.
Cherry Lady. The actress Sherry Houston joins us shortly. She opens up about loneliness as you get older. Is it a problem for you? Let us know.
I'm still trying to work at the Sherry Lady song.
Cherry Lady.
No, that's David Soul's Silver Lady.
No, it's not. That's Come On Silver Lady.
Please join in if you know the word.
What?
In sport, Manchester United finally pulled the trigger on the beleaguered Dutchman Erik ten Hag, who walks away with 15 million quid in his back pocket. And on the other side of Manchester, Rodri has won the world's best footballer award, the Ballon d'Or, whilst Real Madrid boycott the ceremony.
Hello, good morning. A cloudy and grey day on offer, though there will be some brighter spells in places. Stay tuned and I'll have all your details later.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Nana Acquia, and this is GB News Breakfast.
What are you interfering in our music set up for our menus?
I'd just like it to be right, that's all. So... You know, I just don't want anything going wrong.
And they're doing...
Because I thought it was Frankie... With my throat, I'm never going to be able to do Frankie Valli. Sherry, baby. You know,
No.
Sherry Baby.
Yes, it wasn't based on that at all.
So what is it then?
Cherry, Cherry Houston.
No.
Silver lady.
You're thinking David Soul.
No,
Come on, silver lady, take my...
How on earth does Come On Silver Lady...
Well, because that's what it sounds like you're singing.
It's the same tune, Eamonn.
Cherry, Cherry Houston. How does that sound like Silver Lady?
Come on, silver lady. Are you thinking... Look, Cherry Cherry by Neil Diamond is one.
You stick to the sport, OK?
OK.
You do sport and I'll do the music.
All right. You know what? I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't accept that. I just can't. If you're going to sing, I'm in there.
You're in there.
Cherry. I think it's a modern talking song. They were a German band from 1985, and it got to. It's a terrible song.
There's the best song there, right?
Oh, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie. That's Amorim.
Amorim.
There we are.
Yeah, if you're in deep doo-doo and you need someone new...
That's
Amorim.
Oh, dear. Do you know, I stood on a chair around a dinner table, holding hands with, what's his name?
Dean Martin.
No.
Alex Ferguson.
No. The red-haired guy who's...
Paul Scholes.
Close.
Red-haired guy.
Yes.
Chris Evans.
Is he to do with football?
No, he's a singer. Singer's famous.
Oh, I know. Simply Red. Mick Hucknall.
Mick
Hucknall, yes.
I knew it. I got it. I can't believe it.
Well done. So I'm
Thank you.
holding hands with Mick Hucknall there and Alex Ferguson there, and we're singing That's Amore.
That's amazing.
It's Fergie's birthday.
Well, and now that's Amorim.
There you are.
That's what you could sing now.
Is that it?
Just don't get on the chair.
Will you talk sport the next time we're back?
May do.
OK.
May do, we'll see.
Look forward to it, my friend. One day to go till the big budget, the autumn budget, and the Chancellor has warned that tax hikes and borrowing increases mightn't be enough to undo 14 years of damage, she says, caused by the Conservatives to the NHS.
Now, speaking at St George's Hospital, she said that staff are using equipment purchased under the last Labour government, which should have been replaced.
Well, earlier we spoke to the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. Here's what he had to say.
There's no beating about the bush about it, whether it's the size of the waiting list, the fact that people can't guarantee an ambulance turns up on time, the struggle to get a GP appointment or a dentist, the waits in A&E. The NHS is not just on its knees, it's on its face. And what tomorrow's budget will give us the chance to do is arrest that decline and mark a turning point in the history of the NHS and in the decline we've seen over the last 14 years.
We also spoke to Shadow Secretary for Work and Pensions, Mel Stride, and he raised concerns over the productivity in the NHS.
You can support the government in getting waiting lists down, of course we will do so. I think the concern about the latest announcement is it sounds like just much more money going into the NHS, but without, alongside it, a clear plan for improving productivity.
So a lot of explanation about the NHS. Will it do better? Won't it do better? What to expect? What not to expect? Our reporter Adam Cherry will give us his take on things. So it's an NHS day today.
It is, yes. £1.5 billion in capital funding announced today on things like equipment and scanners. Overall, it's going to be the biggest cash injection into the NHS since 2010, since Labour were last in government. But you heard from the Health Secretary on this channel, that the government are rolling the pitch by saying, look, this is just to arrest the decline. They're not expecting to tackle that 7.6 million number waiting list, which has been a perennial problem for the NHS and for the government. They're not going to solve that overnight, in their own words. You'll recall, actually, it was Rishi Sunak's promise to cut the waiting list. He failed to do it. And so now here we are at this budget. They're saying, well, we'll throw some more cash at it, but that might not be enough. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, and Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, yesterday saying, well, this should be the full amount we can tax you, but we can't guarantee it. There's no cast iron guarantee. So although tomorrow may be painful, capital gains tax going up, national insurance for employers going up, it might not be the last just yet.
That you're mentioning that national insurance, but there was a conversation, I don't know whether they're pushing that through or whether part of that information is part of the leak, where national insurance would not go up for public sector employers, only private sector employers. Have you heard much more about that?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. That's the latest, is that the public sector will be ring-fenced and it will just be the private sector. However, there will be... actually, I saw this in the Times today. It's the universities and nurseries which are worried about how this will affect them. So it's not just... there will be some public sector affected by this, but it's mainly the private sector which is going to bear the brunt of it.
Adam, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. The Isle of Man's Chief Minister, Alfred Cannon, is set to face a no-confidence vote on the island today.
Now, last week, the island's health minister resigned in a protest after a row broke out about overspending on healthcare. There we are, back to healthcare. GB News Northern Ireland reporter Dougie Beattie joins us now from Ardglass. And I reckon the reason you're in Ardglass is you're a stone's throw from the Isle of Man.
I am indeed, Eamonn, and I would have been on the Isle of Man, only because this time of year there's not many ferries, etc. going there. I couldn't guarantee that I would be back for the morning for the budget here. But let's look at the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man is probably one of the most fascinating governments, and if you want to study how a budget's done, go to the Isle of Man. It is the oldest consecutive parliament in the world. It's been there since 979 AD, and the island is only 33 miles long and 11 3/4 mile wide. It only has 24 MPs, if you like, ministers, and out of that there's a cabinet of 8. In the term since Alfred Cannon has taken the leadership of that, 5 of them have either resigned or been sacked. And this is really a kickback to a few things that happen in the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man has a very complicated fiscal structure in it. It's very like Guernsey and Jersey. The king, of course, is not the king of the Isle of Man. He's the lord of the Isle of Man because they have separate fiscal levers that they can pull, and most of that depended on banking. And in 2008, the banking crisis hit, and of course then the Isle of Man had to start renegotiating with Britain on VAT and things like that. Then we had COVID lockdown, and of course the island depends an awful lot on tourism and big events such as the Isle of Man TT that brings in millions to its coffers. Now, since then, the government there has had to tell a few home truths to its own people of what it can afford and what it can't afford. And if you look at it, it doesn't take a block grant from Britain. It gets no block grant from Europe. So it has to have an economy that is well trimmed and well defined. Now, there's only 85,000 people live on the island, but here's the secret to it. Only 0.6% unemployment and a very, very small public sector, which means that all of its tax actually funds itself. And the Isle of Man has a very nice way of life, a very high standard of life, and the people there enjoy living there, and even their tax is capped at a certain amount. So if you're a multi-millionaire there, you will only pay a certain amount of tax. And that's exactly how Guernsey and Jersey works as well. But it also has no party politics. This is the main thing. There is no other party. So what you have is 24 independents and 8 in the upper house, the House of Lords, if you like, sitting in the House of Keys. Now, if he is to be voted out with a vote of no confidence today, Tim Glover, the man that is doing this, has put this forward, is an ex-journalist from Manx Radio from the south of the island, and it's his first term in government, and in order to get that through, he would have to get 15 people to back him, and with the general election just about 20 months away in the Isle of Man, who would want that job? It would be a poison chalice. But over the next period of time, those deals that they have with their health service with Northern Ireland and Liverpool will have to be renegotiated, and they are hard decisions.
Well, now we know. Thank you for that whole educational there, Dougie. Really appreciate that. What sort of day is it in Ardglass?
It's beautiful. I think I might go and get some herrings actually shortly here. Beautiful herrings here in Ardglass, and a beautiful, absolutely stunning little place. I would have got some of the boats out of here to the Isle of Man in my younger years on a regular basis, but now I just get lazy and fly.
Well, it's a beautiful fishing port, Ardglass there. Thank you, Dougie. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Now, we've seen the weather there in Ardglass, County Down in Northern Ireland. What's it like there and everywhere else? Here's Honor Criswick.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a cloudy day on offer today, largely dry, though there will be some spots of rain and drizzle at times. And where that cloud breaks up and we see those brighter spells, is going to feel mild for the time of year. A fairly cloudy day on offer, particularly at times across the far southeast, where we'll see some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. This is similar across the far northwest of Scotland too. Fairly damp afternoon here across the far northwest Highlands, but otherwise largely dry, and seeing that cloud break up more than it did on Monday. And looking at those temperatures, it's still fairly mild for this point in October, so feeling pleasant where you catch those brighter skies. As we head through into the evening, we'll continue to see that fairly damp evening on offer in the far northwest Highlands, but elsewhere across Scotland it's going to be largely dry, even seeing some clearer spells in the far east at times too to end the day. Fairly cloudy across Northern Ireland and also northern parts of England, but once again there will be some clearer spells at times. And similar across Wales, central and southern England, a mix of cloud and clear spells as we head into the evening. Now, where we see those clearer skies, we're likely to see some mist and fog develop. That could be quite stubborn to clear by the time we reach the morning. Otherwise, once again, staying largely dry overnight, still with those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the far north of Scotland, and just a slight breeze strengthening across Scotland too, but otherwise light winds and staying fairly dry with a mix of that cloud and those clearer spells. So quite a grey start as we head into Wednesday. Some mist and fog during the first part of the morning too, but generally we have high pressure building, so there's going to be lots of dry and fine weather around, though it may just be quite cloudy and drab at times. We will eventually start to see some outbreaks of rain just moving into the far northern Isles later, but otherwise a largely dry day on offer, and once again temperatures just above average, so feeling pleasant for the time of year.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Talking about Donald Trump and Melania.
I was going to talk about Christmas.
Oh, were you?
You think it'd be good to her at Christmas?
I think it would. They to me look like they're in love.
What are you eating?
What were you eating?
Well, I'm not eating anything.
You were before. It's a bit of
I have a bigger mouth than you. I'm saying swallow more.
Right.
So here is our Christmas competition. And the good thing about it is you could have your whole Christmas paid for.
Yes, so here are all the details that you need to be a Great British Giveaway winner.
We could be delivered.
Well, Nana was fascinated by Donald Trump and Melania, who is so stylishly beautiful, isn't she?
She really is, and there's a picture of them kissing, but then everyone's sort of saying it's a cringy moment because they always do that, don't they? Deliberately to try and portray them as odd. But I've seen other clips where he's extremely loving towards her, helping her down the steps, holding her hand and everything.
I haven't seen her publicly with him recently anyway, you know, but there you are. Yeah, she's out and they're all very loved up and very nice, which is very nice. Good. Right, OK, we will take a break there, and then I think we're back with the sport, and we've got Paul talking about the Ballon d'Or next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
3 incredible young people from Essex are planning to become the youngest people ever to row, not sail, row, across the Atlantic Ocean.
It's about for 3,000 miles.
It is.
Give or take.
Almost exactly that, Sam.
The 3 flying fish, so-called, consists of Anna, Dunk, Harry, Alan and Rowan Daly, who are preparing to row that 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. It would be the second largest ocean in the world, and the trio are aiming to do that challenge in support of the Teenage Cancer Trust.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that Anna and Harry from the Flying Fish join us now. Very good morning to both of you.
Guys.
Morning. I think the two of you are bonkers, but brilliant. Absolutely incredible what you're doing to raise money for Teenage Cancer Trust. Why did you want to do this?
So
our third person, Rowan, his friend actually died. So when he was in secondary school, I believe, one of his peers passed away, and Teenage Cancer supported them and their family a lot. So it was definitely the right charity. Yeah, it was.
Absolutely awful. So you wanted to do something to raise money for teenage cancer. Why rowing?
So my dad did it in 2021.
The Atlantic trip?
Yeah, he rowed it as a pair. Where we live in Essex, they actually build the boats there. So we used to cycle round there past the boatyard, and he got interested and actually did it. He was the first year after COVID. And one night, we all met in the Air Cadets, so one night after Air Cadets, Rowan actually dropped me off home and the boat was outside. We were obviously waiting to get it sold. And I think he was asking some questions, and we stood there at my porch and went, Rowan said, I reckon we could do that. And I was like, yeah, I reckon we could. And then we brought Harry on board, and that's kind of how it all came together.
If people are watching and they want to support you, do you have a
Yeah, we've
GoFundMe
got
page
social
yet?
media platforms at
Right.
The Free Flying Fish. That's Facebook, Instagram and TikTok, and our GoFundMe links in all of the bios on there.
Fantastic.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it?
Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Now, listen, welcome to GB News. Now, at GB News, we love to hear what you think every day.
Do we?
Well, we do, actually.
Yes, OK, right, that's good.
We'll be running our poll of the day. And today, the big question is, how worried are you about Rachel Reeves' budget? Now, we will be bringing you the live results throughout
See, I think a lot of people think she's going to sneak up and steal something out of their purse or wallet. No, I do. I think they're talking about, but they're not mentioning the elephant in the room. You know, there's got more money to come from somewhere. And where's it going to come from? Inheritance tax, if you're going to leave stuff, or a pension, or something like that.
But here's something you might not have known, that Rachel Reeves, she had the parliamentary credit card suspended for £4,000 worth of unauthorised transactions.
How much?
£4,000 worth. Rachel Reeves, our Chancellor.
She couldn't find an answer for where she'd spent that stuff. And
unauthorised transactions. And that's widely known. That.
There you are.
So we'll see what happens on Wednesday.
Anyway, we'll give the result of the poll today on Martin Dobney's show, OK? Find out all the details there. Now we've got Paul. He's got the sport, my friend.
I love sport, I love an awards ceremony, and they both came together yesterday.
Yes.
The Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, which means the ball of gold, isn't it?
What does it mean?
It's the Ballon d'Or. What's the ball
What
of
does
the
it
day?
mean?
Oh, what is it?
What is it?
What
Gold
is Ballon d'Or?
Well, I don't know. You've
Golden
been saying...
ball. That's that right?
Is it the
golden balls.
Well, that can't be gold.
He doesn't
surely.
know. I can't
Ballon
believe
d'Or.
it after all this.
I think it is. You look that
I'm
up.
going to have a
find
look
out.
for you.
Well, shall I tell you what happened at the Ballon d'Or?
Yeah.
The Ballon d'Or, which is the greatest footballer in the world, which was... Well, let's see them arriving. See the glamour. It's honestly, it's the football Oscars,
I saw
which happened in Paris.
Drogba arriving, and I have to say, he looked amazing.
Look
Who's
at
that?
Gibril Cisse.
Oh,
Look at that.
yeah. Oh, there he is.
That's Didier Drogba. How great does he look? Look at him. He looks fantastic there. Oh, that's young Lamine Yamal. There he is. And that's it. Oh, Luis Figo. Looks very nice there.
Ah, he's preserved well, hasn't he?
He does. He looks very good with a little spotty bow tie there.
Portuguese striker.
That's him. So all the great and the good of football arrived, apart from...
Who?
Real Madrid, who decided that they weren't going to go. Now, the winner of the Ballon d'Or is Rodri. Now, Rodri, fantastic midfielder for Manchester City. There he is winning the award. You can't see his crutches because he arrived on crutches.
Yeah.
Because he's out for the rest of the season. So he can't...
He's
not going to play. But an absolutely fantastic player and well-deserved. But the rumour was that it was going to be Vinicius Junior who was going to win who plays for Real Madrid. So Vinicius Jr. came second, and I even said this yesterday. There were rumours that was sneaking out saying Vinicius Jr.'s won it, and it turns out he comes second. Real Madrid got wind of this because Jude Bellingham, who plays for them, was third. Dani Carvajal, who also plays for them, came fourth. And because they didn't have the winner, it's like, we're off.
Golden ball.
Yes.
We're taking our golden ball home.
Yes.
Golden ball.
And you're not playing with it.
Yeah, exactly. We're taking it away.
Yeah.
So Rodri was left there. So the other winners, there's the Yashin Trophy, which is the best goalkeeper, which is Emiliano Martinez of Aston Villa again, which I'm impressed by. I'm not really.
Oh, he's the one that climbs about a lot.
That's
isn't
it.
he?
Yeah. The one with the Gerd Muller Trophy, which is the most goals scored. Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe shared that, but Kylian Mbappe wasn't there because he plays for Real Madrid, and of course they were boycotting the ceremony because their boy didn't win the main award. But also some other players that were there. Actually, I found a lookalike. See what you think about this.
Yes, yeah.
Alejandro Garnacho. There he is, Manchester United. Now, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking...
Who does he look like?
Who does he look like?
Ollie London.
It was driving... What do you think?
He looks like Ollie London.
Who's Ollie London?
You mean Ollie London? He's an influencer.
Oh, right.
He does look a little...
No, we're thinking more like Halloween season, aren't we?
Okay.
Well, that's what we're thinking. Yeah. And then me and Eamonn came up with this. Lurch! What do you think?
I think it's
Lurch
spooky.
from the Addams Family.
Can we put them together? Can we do that at all? They're even wearing the same outfit, the same sort of clothes.
The same outfit, the same hair, the same look.
Chin,
and
mouth.
Yes, it's Lurch.
So wait a minute, which one is Garnacho? Which one?
Garnacho is the one on the right, the big fella on the right, and the Manchester and the star of the Addams Family. That's him on the left-hand side.
See, that's uncanny, isn't it?
What do you think?
Yeah, and then we've got Mikel Arteta and Captain Black.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, separated at birth.
We could put a whole darn team together of lookalikes as well.
Yeah.
And actually, talking of lookalikes, there's... You know, I often like sporting statues because often... And Ronaldo, do you remember the Ronaldo one that went up in Funchal that looked nothing like him whatsoever? No. Miami Heat basketball team. There's a player called Dwayne Wade. I think have we got the picture of Dwayne? There's Dwayne. This is the statue of Dwayne. Now,
that's a statue.
It'd be good if we could actually see Dwayne first to see what he actually looks like. We only have... There we are. That's Dwayne in the middle there. Now, the statue of him looks about 50 years older, so he's had to have this statue unveiled because he's the great Miami Heat leading scorer, has this statue unveiled, and you've got to kind of, look smiley and happy because it's nice that he's got his statue, but it just looks...
Do we know if he was annoyed by that?
I don't know.
I'll be happy with that kind of...
I mean, if it doesn't look like you, what is the point?
I know.
I've seen really bad versions of George Best. I've seen really bad versions... No, well, better not say who else I've seen. But there are bad
There's
ones.
some bad statues around.
Ones.
There's a lot of bad statues around. But it's that Ronaldo one, which is the worst one of all. But there's a great one, isn't there, in Newry of Pat Jennings, which is a fantastic statue.
What was, yeah.
The image of it, it's absolutely brilliant.
And it was an action shot. He was grabbing the ball, wasn't he?
Yeah.
With one hand.
So where's your statue? Where's the statue?
I don't have... Well, funny enough, I don't have a statue, but a woman did sculpt something for me. And it's so heavy, I can't lift it. It's so heavy.
What was it of, then?
It's of me, just of my head.
Right. And
I look like Kiefer Sutherland. I'll get it for you.
That's not bad.
It's just a head on a...
No, but except I'm not Kiefer Sutherland. But
Are you sure she wasn't doing Kiefer Sutherland and said it looks like Eamonn Holmes? There you go, I'd like you to have it.
It went wrong.
Got this one left over. You can have this one. Yeah. Well.
That's all I got for you.
Thank you,
That's
Paul
it.
Coyle.
Ballon d'Or,
Always a pleasure.
Eric Ten Hag, statues. What more can I give to you?
All right.
Thank you very much indeed.
All right, still to come. Why is Hollyoaks actress Sherry Houston urging families to reach out to elderly relatives? That's on the way. Yeah. This is GB News Breakfast with
Eamonn. Loneliness. Think about loneliness, OK? Back after this.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M74 in South Lanarkshire, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down at junction 4 at Maryville, causing queues. On the M65 in Lancashire, there's a lane closed westbound after an accident between junctions 3 and 2 near Blackburn. It's taking around an hour in queues from junction 4 at Darwin. And there are eastbound delays past the scene from junction 1. There are delays of up to an hour to trains between Leeds and both Blackburn and Rochdale because of a points failure at Hebden Bridge. The M1 in West Yorkshire is partly blocked northbound at junction 39 at Wakefield, taking 20 minutes in queues towards and past there. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from Blythe to Retford after a lorry caught fire, causing delays. And on the M4 in Bridgend, there's a lane closed eastbound for repairs between junctions 35 and 34 from Pencoed to Miskin, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christies tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christies tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm not going to do that again.
If you haven't checked in on any older people that you know, particularly older relatives, this is a chance for you to do so.
Now, it's come out today that half of over 65s feel lonely multiple times a week, with many admitting they rarely get invited to social gatherings.
Well, all of this has inspired the actress Sherry Houston, best known for roles in Coronation Street and Benidorm, and currently on Hollyoaks, to launch the Grand Day Out campaign.
That's right. I mean, the idea is that it urges families to reconnect with their elderly loved ones.
It's as if you have to be reminded. But
yeah,
let's go and join my friend Sherry Houston, who's there this morning. Lovely to see you, Sherry.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Eamonn. It's been a long time.
You see, we need to reconnect. We need to see more of each other.
It's true.
I was just about to say that. We don't talk very often anymore. No more hugs or anything.
But the thing is, I mean, you know, I know you, you know me, and we'll always be friends. We'll always have a familiarity about that. And it's sad when I hear you talking about relatives where people have forgotten about them, and we just assume they're okay and they're all right and whatever. But that's not always the case. And I used to hear this from my own mother all the time, and I'm so lonely, I'm so lonely, and we'd say, but you're not lonely, so-and-so calls to see you or whatever, and she would say, but none of them are my age, or none of them grew up and had the experiences I had and whatever. But she was lonely, even though I always assumed she wasn't lonely.
Well, loneliness is a very strange thing, isn't it? It's not seeable. You can't see it. You can't detect it. And I see people, and they sometimes don't speak to anybody in a week. You know, they don't have a conversation with anybody. It's like going to supermarkets when they don't go to a till anymore. You know, when it used to be, how are you? Well, I'm fine. People don't seem to do that anymore. We've lost that. I don't know why we have lost that sociability, and we need to bring it back, and we need to know that there are people there. We all have loneliness inside us, all of us. You know, I have a family, I have grandchildren, but I have a loneliness when I shut that door and I'm on my own, and I can feel it, and I just think, oh, get over it, you know, or have a glass of wine, or, so, you know, I have it too. And so this thing, I think this is amazing with farmhouse inns, because farmhouse inns are all over the country, and that you can go every Tuesday in November, grandparents, take a grandchild with you, pay for the grandchild's food, and you get a free carvery. I mean, how amazing is that?
Incredible.
And people, I think it's fantastic. And I'm going to be the first there. I'll be there in the queue. But I think it's amazing. And I think what it will do is make people go, oh, well, that's all right then. It's not going to cost me now. I can't, because I can't do it on my pension. That's what they'll say. And then they'll go in, and people at that till will talk to them. But there is a code. You have to say this code. You have to say grand day out. You have to say that, or you don't get your food. But so grand day out is the code. And it will make them communicate with everybody around them, and everybody will just have fun. And isn't that true, Eamonn? That's all we need now, is that bit of love from everybody. And if everybody would just talk to everybody and not leave people on their own, this is the perfect way, a free carvery every Tuesday at farmhouse inns. I will be there. I just think it's fantastic. I should meet you there, Eamonn.
We should meet me there, and we get a good dinner as well. Yeah.
What is it? I mean, especially as we're coming, you know, to Christmas as well, when a lot of old people will be on their own. People don't often think about that. And of course, we've got, you know, a lot of them may be cold because of the winter fuel allowance. So even just to get them out somewhere where there is heating and eating and heating supplied, it's a lovely idea.
And can I just say something as well? It's not... We're classing them as old and elderly, and that's not fair. It's to do with people. I know grandparents that are in their late 40s. Do you know what I mean? So it's not to do with, oh God, they're 80 or 90 years old and they must need people to talk to because they don't want to. It's got nothing. It's to do with people, and it's to do with, now, admittedly, they are targeting grandparents with grandchildren, but that could mean any age. It doesn't mean you're elderly. So don't think that. It's to do with getting out there and enjoying a carvery together. And you're right, Christmas is the worst time, and people get very lonely because everybody's out there having so they think, having a wonderful time, but that's not necessarily true. So get down to farmhouse inns and say, grand day out, and you'll get that carvery. You'll see Eamonn and me. We'll be in the corner, me and Eamonn. We'll be having our grand day out together.
Well, I can join you as well, because my name's Nana. I am a grandma, naturally.
Yeah.
See?
Well, there you go then.
Nana.
Being a grandparent, it does change. It's helped. Not everybody's a grandparent. Not everybody has grandchildren around them or whatever. But you do. And do you find that they make a big difference to your life?
Oh, they are the reason that my heart beats every day. I live for my grandchildren, and they do make all the difference in the world. I mean, the other day, I'll tell you, I went to school to pick my 5-year-old up, and she was right across the other side of the school, and she saw me, she went, oh, Nana. And she ran and jumped in my arms, and I thought, worth £1 trillion million in my book. And the love is just wonderful.
Well, we'll give you love.
I will take her with me. I will take her to farmhouse with me.
But the good thing is you can then take them back to their parents and then go home.
Farmhouse on a Tuesday.
Well, you see, Nana, I don't like that. I would have them 24 hours a day if I could. But I have to remember they're not mine. They belong to my daughter.
Yeah, that's true. Well, never be lonely. Never be lonely, no matter who you are, whatever.
Never.
And take Sherry's advice on things. Today is Tuesday. And farmhouse, where are we? Farmhouse?
Farmhouse inns all over the country, but you have to say, what do you have to say, Eamonn? Have you taken
day out.
Grand day
Thank
out.
you.
Thank you very much indeed. God bless. See you soon. Thank you very much
love
indeed,
you,
Sherry.
love you.
Okay, love
bye.
you too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, that's Sherry Houston.
She's genuinely a lovely
Isn't she
person.
great?
And she is great. And every time her and I meet, we laugh and laugh. We have so many. She was on a cruise ship once lecturing or whatever she was doing. And she met my brother, one of my brothers, on board. And of course, he bored the backside of her for the rest of the week. But no, she's a very lovely lady.
Lovely lady.
Please don't be lonely.
All right, well, still to come. Find out which Christmas advert Nigella Lawson will star in this winter. That's next. This is GB News.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
It seems that the younger generation's interest in literature is waning. Academics argue that educational policies have failed to encourage reading for pleasure, contributing to declining numbers of English literature students and a shift towards young adult books rather than classic novels. According to 2023 figures from the National Literacy Trust, the number of 8 to 18-year-olds who say they enjoy reading has sunk to its lowest level for almost 20 years, with a quarter fewer reading each day over that same time period. To share more with us about this topic, I'm joined now by the journalist Charlotte Lytton. Charlotte, welcome back. Lovely to talk to you again. Tell us your perspective on this issue. What is happening?
Well, speaking to academics, we can't deny, it seems, that there is a big problem here, and it starts right at school. As you read there, young children simply don't enjoy reading for pleasure as they did before. We can't deny that is also a massive part because of smartphones, because kids now are faced with all of these things vying for their attention. They just don't have to sit down and entertain themselves with a long book and nothing else as they did before. As we see from those figures with people going to study humanities at university, the decline is just going all the way because people simply are not interested in reading for pleasure as they were.
Do you get any feeling that education policy or that teachers are taking steps to counter this?
Well, there is a review of the curriculum going ahead right now, but school is a huge part of it. One of the things that has come up in this conversation is whether teachers now are dealing with crowd control, which means they can't simply encourage reading for pleasure because they're simply trying to get a hold of the students they have.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Welcome to breakfast on GB News.
Yeah, we're going through the papers now, the stories that are making the news. We've got Alex Armstrong and we've got Claire Muldoon. Claire, you've concern, or there's a concern in the Times, front page of the Times today, and its fertility rate has hit a record low.
Yeah, so in this country we currently have, in the age
band 50 to 55, over 4 million people, right? But if you look down the statistics that have just been released by the ONS, that you will see that there's only, what, 2.2 million youngsters? That's a huge disconnect. We have got falling birth rates globally, and what that impact has on us as a society is actually quite grave. It's all very well saying, well, that's the case of legal migration. Let the migrants come in and let them do... But that is very much a short-term, short-gap solution.
But I thought...
Because they age as well, and they do not have children.
On the planet, this was the problem. A lot of people who are into the green thing would say that the kindest thing we could do is have fewer children.
There are obviously too many people on the planet. There obviously are.
Of course there are.
But this is driven by corporations. This is driven by businesses who need people until they don't need people, till they then need robots and they couldn't care less about anybody.
You're absolutely right there, and that's exactly why we have this massive push for immigration into the country. It's to keep the businesses going, it's to keep the GDP going up. It is all basically money. Let's just be honest, right? So the falling birth rate, I mean, the human population has a way of sort of managing itself. You know, it's managing itself down. It's saying there are too many people. We're going to manage our way down now. Because the people are living longer as well. We've got people for living for much longer. But I saw actually Miriam Cake, I think it's going to be on later, actually put a post about this on Twitter saying that this is going to cause massive economic harm to us in the long run. So we have to have a really serious conversation in Britain. Do we want to have our population decrease and ease pressure on some public services in the long run at the cost of economic...
That's one thing that women are in control of, and couples in stable relationships, because they are the ones that can help this. They are the only ones that can help this. Women are the only ones that can help this. And unfortunately, we are led by a very pro-planned parenthood, very contraceptive society, very abortive society, to the extent that the human life does not have much meaning.
Yeah, I agree.
And women do not want to put their so-called careers on hold so they can have children.
But you know what really worries me is that...
And that's such a worry.
If we carry on the way we are, the government will always use immigration to solve this problem because the money is the most important thing in our society. Let's just get real. Whether it's Labour or the Tories, they all want to grow the economy. It's always their number one agenda. So if we don't start having children, then this country will become a fully immigrant country in the next 20, 30 years. And that may sacrifice our culture, it may sacrifice our values, it may sacrifice many things.
It will sacrifice all of those. Yeah, it really will.
What about the fact that it's so expensive to have children? Now, you're saying all this thing about values and culture. The bottom line is, it's not that they don't want to sacrifice their jobs or careers, it's that childcare is so expensive. And even having your own home or a house or somewhere to live is expensive. So I think the decision has been made by the younger generation that we can't afford it anyway.
I'm 33, right? I should be prime age for having children, but I can't afford to get a mortgage. I can't afford to buy a house in my own city. I was born and raised in London. I can't afford to buy here. It's impossible. It's impossible with the cost of living. And I'm a relatively good job, so I can't imagine how other young people are suffering, unlike me as well. I mean, you'd have to leave the city, then find a new job in a different city. It's very difficult. It's really, really difficult to have.
Well, it's not rocket science. It's worked in the past and it should work going forward, and people should not use the environment as an excuse for not having a family.
I don't think many young people feel that it's the environment. I do think Nana's right, it's the cost of living.
Can't afford it.
Yeah.
Can't afford it. Why would you?
I'd love to have kids, but too expensive.
Yeah. Let's, Claire, talk about tech giants ignoring harm to children while profiting from them.
You know, back when Theresa May was Prime Minister, we were supposed to have a discussion on big Meta, Facebook, all the big tech giants harming children, and there were supposed to be things going through government to try and speed things up in terms of safeguarding. What has happened so far? Relatively little. And I do think that they do have a duty of care. The scrolling of children as young as 7 or 9 on a tablet or using a phone, it's harming their development. They have got hardwired brains, especially in prepubescent teens, being exposed to the internet and the grave depravity of people like Andrew Tate and pornography. Tech giants really need to take responsibility and stop it.
You're you're right, Claire, but tech companies do have age limits. It's the parents that are allowing them to have the phone. So there is, I think, like some cases, social media is 15, sometimes it's 13. So they do put those boundaries there.
Alex, they can navigate that. They put the wrong date of birth
But that's what I'm saying. So is the onus on the parent to say, well, why does my 7-year-old child have an iPhone? You know, like, so I think we've got to stop constantly blaming businesses and the government and say, where do parents need to step in here?
Well, that is true, but then a lot of these games and things are being infiltrated.
Yep.
So you'll have some weird pornography coming up and something that is even meant to be for a child. So the tech giants have that level of responsibility.
I agree with you
Some of those eating behaviours and things like that, and the suicidal ones that are encouraging people to take their own lives. These are actually being infiltrated.
The reality is parents are the primary educators of children, or they should be, right? Schools are the secondary. I think tech giants should be the tertiary. See what I did there? I think that's really important. And yes, parents do have it. You know my views on this. They've got a huge responsibility, not only to their own children, but their children's friends that they have in the house.
Yeah, but they're making money out of this, though, and they will know the weaknesses in their systems, and they will know they could fix them, and I think a lot of them aren't doing it.
Oh, well, exactly, but the tech giants, therefore, need to take responsibility for it. And by parents being the primary carers and being the primary educators, need to withdraw the devices from their children, and the schools should support that too.
I agree. Here's something that I don't support, and I can remember, I'm old enough to remember when travel was luxurious, when you had to dress up to board an aircraft, and you know, nowadays people don't know how to board, they rush on, you're treated like cattle, you're treated very badly. And British Airways, Alex, have decided that when it comes to lunch, you can't have a starter anymore.
Well, it's not just for the average Joe as well, Eamonn. We're talking about business and first class. So people who pay thousands for these, which I sometimes think is
British Airways have become an economy carrier.
They have. Yeah, they have.
It's quite obvious.
You know, I mean, even I fly British Airways. There you go. That's what it is now. It's a bit better than EasyJet, and they cost about the same, actually. But this is a sign of the times. But, you know, British Airways are saying that they can't afford to keep doing this, that their service is suffering, that their profits are lower, and therefore they need to cut back on these luxuries for even their first-class travellers. I think that there's a large part of the climate agenda here pushing these net zero targets for companies. Therefore, their margins are getting squeezed because air travel's never been so affordable. But there's also never been such money in the market. But for some reason, these companies are getting squeezed.
They want to make more profit.
British Airways used to be synonymous, though, with quality, with experience, with luxury.
Which is what their staff is. The cabin crew are very good. But the service all around it is...
Well, I still use them. I still like them. And I think
they're really reliable. They got so much better over the last few years. They were terrible. I mean, they used to cancel flights regularly.
They
so
still
they have got better.
They still do.
But yeah, well, I've really...
You get a flight to Glasgow or Belfast, it's the last flight. They'll suddenly decide... we'll not bother.
No, we're not bothered with that one.
Bother with that one, and you're left overnight.
Well, I think they all do that at some point. Listen, should we move on to this the row over the Nazi jibe in the Trump rally? Alex?
Yes. OK, so anyone who pays attention to the American press will know there's a big division in America over how you report on Donald Trump. Now, the traditional media are very pro-Democrats. They are very, very pro-Democrat. That's obvious for most people to see. But MSNBC yesterday, alongside Trump's rally in New York, aired and compared Trump's rally to a Nazi rally.
At the same venue.
At the same venue, and put images side by side of it. Now, there's even a man doing the Nazi salute and everything. And I
think... This was in 1939?
1939, that's correct. I find something very sickening about that. I really do. I mean, Trump has been president before. He never did anything close to what they're talking about, comparing him to Hitler. The man's had 2 assassination attempts. I mean, they were telling they've got to tone down the narrative, but all they've done is tone it up, actually, calling him Hitler. We saw this before. It's the same tactic they usually use, but I think this is disgusting.
Well, David Lammy called him a Nazi sympathising sociopath. I mean, that's what he called Trump. That's disgraceful.
Absolutely abhorrent. Yeah. It really, really, really is. And for him to be Foreign Secretary, I'm sorry.
What a disaster.
What a disaster.
It will be a really big problem for Keir Starmer if Trump does win, which he looks set to do at the moment. that David Lammy is the Foreign Secretary, the man who's meant to be negotiating with Trump's administration.
I think it's actually really concerning, our Labour administration now, if Trump does get in, and what the combination of it would be. But I'm less likely to be concerned if Trump wins than I am if Kamala Harris and the Democrats win, because I think that will be a globalist absolute ideal.
Well, we have a really big distortion field in the UK about who we like and who we don't like. I mean, the British public massively favour Kamala Harris, but I think I think British people really should pay attention to what happens in America. They should listen to her speeches. They should listen to what is actually going on in America, and then make a decision. Don't make it based on what you read in the news. Look at the policies of the two of them and think, if I was an American, what would you vote for? I lived in America for a couple of years, and Los Angeles was. There is nowhere in Britain that's as absolutely horrendous as that city.
Well, San Francisco.
San Francisco. I'm talking about comparatively to the UK.
Would you say horrendous, meaning
the poverty is
drugs,
severe.
People wandering the streets on all sorts of drugs.
Well, I'd have
because of the decriminalisation of Class B,
with a metal pole, swinging his metal pole above people's heads, and the Americans it was normal to them.
Yeah.
And that is how bad it is over there. And they still vote for the Democrat Party, who has perpetuated it.
All right. Well, Alex Armstrong and Claire Muldoon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
There we go. It's just time to have a look at the weather forecast and what's happening there, and we'll see you right after this. To go away.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a cloudy day on offer today, largely dry, though there will be some spots of rain and drizzle at times. And where that cloud breaks up and we see those brighter spells, is going to feel mild for the time of year. A fairly cloudy day on offer, particularly at times across the far southeast, where we'll see some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. This is similar across the far northwest of Scotland too. Fairly damp afternoon here across the far northwest Highlands, but otherwise largely dry, and seeing that cloud break up more than it did on Monday. And looking at those temperatures, it's still fairly mild for this point in October, so feeling pleasant where you catch those brighter skies. As we head through into the evening, we'll continue to see that fairly damp evening on offer in the far northwest Highlands, but elsewhere across Scotland it's going to be largely dry, even seeing some clearer spells in the far east at times too to end the day. Fairly cloudy across Northern Ireland and also northern parts of England, but once again there will be some clearer spells at times. And similar across Wales, central and southern England, a mix of cloud and clear spells as we head into the evening. Now where we see those clearer skies, we're likely to see some mist and fog develop. That could be quite stubborn to clear by the time we reach the morning. Otherwise, once again, staying largely dry overnight, still with those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the far north of Scotland, and just a slight breeze strengthening across Scotland too, but otherwise light winds and staying fairly dry with a mix of that cloud and those clearer spells. So quite a grey start as we head into Wednesday. Some mist and fog during the first part of the morning too, but generally we have high pressure building, so there's going to be lots of dry and fine weather around, though it may just be quite cloudy and drab at times. We will eventually start to see some outbreaks of rain just moving into the far northern Isles later, but otherwise a largely dry day on offer, and once again temperatures just above average, so feeling pleasant for the time of year.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Trains at Northallerton have been stopped because of a level crossing problem. There are delays of up to an hour to trains between Leeds and both Blackburn and Rochdale because of a points failure. The A1 in Nottinghamshire is closed southbound from Blythe to Retford after a lorry caught fire with queues towards there and delays as you divert. On the M4 in Bridgend, there's a lane closed eastbound again today for barrier repairs between junctions 35 and 34 from Pencoed to Miskin, causing queues. In Hampshire, the A36 is closed northbound from the Calmore junction to the A31 northwest of Southampton because of fire services activity. On the M27 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed westbound where someone's broken down between junctions 10 and 9 towards Fareham, causing delays. And in Cornwall, the A389 is closed each way to the southeast of Wadebridge after an accident causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We're giving luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Everyone's getting ready for the budget. One day till the budget of a generation.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves, she's teasing her £35 billion worth of tax rises, but apparently that's still not enough to get the NHS back on its feet.
Well, despite £1.5 billion already being announced to cut down on waiting lists earlier, we spoke to the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. This is what he had to say.
The NHS is not just on its knees, it's on its face. And what tomorrow's budget will give us the chance to do is arrest that decline and mark a turning point in the history of the NHS.
And Shadow Secretary for Work and Pensions Mel Stride raised concerns over productivity in the NHS.
I think the concern about the latest announcement is it sounds like just much more money going into the NHS, but without, alongside it, a clear plan for improving productivity.
Price rises just keep coming after the Prime Minister confirmed the bus fare cap in England will rise from £2 to £3.
One week out, Trump and Harris are neck and neck in the race for the White House as they make their final pitches.
The consequences of him ever being president again are brutally serious. Brutally serious.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here.
Hello, good morning. A cloudy and grey day on offer, though there will be some brighter spells in places. Stay tuned and I'll have all your details later.
Good to see you. Nice to have you on board. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Nana Aquia, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So here we are, one day to go until the autumn budget, and the Chancellor has warned that tax hikes and borrowing increases may not be enough to undo what she terms 14 years of Conservative damage to the NHS.
Speaking at St George's Hospital, she said that staff are using equipment purchased under the last Labour government, which should have been replaced.
Well, earlier we spoke to the Health Secretary. Here's what he had to say.
There's no beating about the bush about it, whether it's the size of the waiting list, the fact that people can't guarantee an ambulance turns up on time, the struggle to get a GP appointment or a dentist, the waits in A&E. The NHS is not just on its knees, it's on its face. And what tomorrow's budget will give us the chance to do is arrest that decline and mark a turning point in the history of the NHS and in the decline we've seen over the last 14 years.
Well, let's talk to Adam Cherry, our reporter on all of this. So it looks very much like we're being set up and primed for the National Health Service today, Adam. What's the message they're trying to get across?
Well, you heard from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, there. It's we're going to arrest the decline, but they're not promising to fix this, in their words, overnight. Look, winter is always a difficult time for the NHS. Every year, people are warned that the waiting list will grow and that it will be tough. Now the waiting list is at 7.6 million. You'll remember this was a promise from Rishi Sunak, actually, to cut the waiting list. He failed. So now we get another cash boost, the biggest capital injection since 2010, 1.5 billion for scanners and other equipment. But they're not saying necessarily that will be enough, and they're not saying that the tax rises we're expecting to see tomorrow will cover it either. There's no cast iron guarantee from the Prime Minister or the Chancellor that tomorrow's rises on things like national insurance, capital gains tax will be the last of it.
I spoke to him about waste, because they were talking about waste and reform of the system before they got into power. Has there been any murmurs or any rumours about what they might do in terms of NHS waste and reform?
So this is another problem that we've heard many times from many health secretaries. I've covered it extensively. NHS waste on things like, as you actually spoke to the health secretary about, things like these diversity roles and all these sort of HR equivalent positions that command silly salaries for no benefit to patients. Wes Streeting is promising to take a look at that and doesn't see the value in that. So things like that will get attention, or at least that's a suggestion. Again, we've heard that before from other health secretaries, so I would be sceptical, but at least there's some attention on it. They are promising a broader reform of the NHS, the biggest since 1948, but again, they're also saying, please give us time, look at how long, look at the last 14 years, blaming the previous government, as you would expect. That's sort of routine at this point. But they're basically just saying, hold on and get through this. And as Keir Starmer said yesterday, actually, judge us in 5 years' time, not necessarily in 5 months.
All right, Adam Cherry, thank you very much. That's Adam Cherry. He's there in Westminster.
We're going to go to the Isle of Man. Let's talk about the Isle of Man now. Their Chief Minister is called Alfred Keenan, and he is set to face a no confidence vote today.
Last week, the island's health minister resigned in protest after a row broke out about overspending on healthcare.
Well, let's go to our reporter, who's Dougie Beattie, there from Ardglass in Northern Ireland, and which you can see the Isle of Man was stretching your eyes over your shoulder there, my friend.
Yes, indeed, the Isle of Man's just a short journey from here. In fact, in my youth, I used to get a boat from here on a regular basis across to the Isle of Man. But Alfred Keenan is in a bit of trouble now, it must be said. He is the Chief Minister of the Isle of Man, and his problems have really came through what else but money, and what money is in the coffers of that small island. That island is only 33 miles long and 11 3/4 wide. But it has its own taxation system. The King of Britain is not the King of the Isle of Man. He's the Lord of the Isle of Man. They run their own fiscal levers. They take no block grants from Britain, and they take no block grants from the EU. They have very much survived on their own for many, many years. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, their economy is very much based on the banks and taxation, very like Guernsey and Jersey. And they have, and this is the most important part in this, Eamonn, they have a very small public sector, and they only have 0.6% unemployment. So therefore they have no big welfare bills and a very small public sector bill, which means that the tax that is spent in the Isle of Man and gathered off the people there very much pays for how they live. And of course, in 2008, we had a banking crisis that caused problems with the banks all around the world, and that hit the Isle of Man. And of course, they then had to renegotiate the VAT with the British government. And then, of course, we had COVID, which locked down the island, which is very much, it has a big tourist industry, and events like the Isle of Man TT that brings in millions to that economy, of course, was cancelled for a couple of years. So what they have been surviving on is really what was access in the coffers. Now, their public health system, their national health, is very much funded by themselves. There's only about 85,000 people on the island, and they have agreements with Northern Ireland and Liverpool for any major surgeries. So therefore, when they are starting to spend money this far in, only coming out of COVID, most economies really are. I know it's 3 years since, but the economies are only recovering from that. Ministers are having a hard job dividing up that money. And of course, ministers in Northern Ireland, in the Isle of Man, are not party political. There's 24 of them sit in the House of Keys, and 8 of them sit in the upper house. So for a vote of no confidence to go in, that has been put there by Tim Glover, he is a former Manx Radio presenter from the south of the island, and it's his first term in politics. Now, for him to actually get that vote of confidence, no confidence to go through, he would need 15 people to come along with him. And I know that in the last term, there's been in and around probably 5 of the ministers there that have either been sacked or resigned, because you're having to bring independents together to think similarly. It's like an old parish council that you and I would have remembered back in the days of Northern Ireland in the early 70s. So if he's to be unseated, the magical number is 15, and I'll do something here. I'll bet that it doesn't happen, because there's only 20 months left to a general election, and nobody will want to take that poison chalice.
Good educational. Thank you very much, Dougie. Thank you. Have you ever been to the Isle of Man?
I have, actually, yes.
Yeah.
I went many years ago, and there was this one hotel, the Stackis Hotel. Everyone was, literally everyone would go to this one place. I can remember sitting with the guy that I was with at the time, and people started dancing. Then everybody joined in, and then it was like a routine that they all knew. And then I started to get the frighteners, and I started running away. Then I jumped, they were all running after me. It was a really very interesting, quite murky, different place. I'd never been there before.
Yeah, it's a bit like place. Ireland in a way, from a geography point of view. But I've worried any time I've been there, I sort of think, oh, would I get islanditis? But, you sort of feel, how do you get off, or what do you do? But everybody there seems very, very happy. Seems to be a lovely place.
Yeah, I know. It was very foggy, and it was. I remember getting on the ferry. It took hours, and but interesting location though. I'd like to go back and see how it's changed.
Maybe we'll do an OB from there.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Christmas. Looking ahead to Christmas, we can get it sorted for you. So we can. All the money you'll need, and here's how you get it.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. First, we'll give you £20,025 in tax-free cash. Then
Still got their own money in the Isle of Man. They're all, yeah.
Manx Bank.
Is there?
Yeah, and the little three legs, isn't it?
The 3 legs of a man.
Yeah, and the cats with no tails. Yeah, whatever. It's all there. It's all that. But anyway, you could go to the Isle of Man for Christmas if you won that competition. That could be the thing. We'll take a break, and then we'll be finding out lots of things, including what is on with Andrew Pearce and his show at 9:30. Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight
and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tell us about this film, because it's obviously come from your own experiences.
We wanted to create something for the entertainment industry that wasn't just another kind of dull documentary. I mean, some of them are brilliant, they're very informative, but you kind of leave a bit bewildered and a little bit kind of flat. So we thought, I've got a passion for writing, and you've obviously got an unbounded knowledge on the subject. Why don't we create a film with a kind of satirical look on eating disorders?
So this came it's been made 20 years after your own...
It is 20 years.
20 years,
practically to the day.
So Samantha, you suffered with OCD and an eating disorder as well?
Yes.
And that's when your mum became a counsellor, is that right?
A little bit later on, I think we spent a bit of time in the system, and I realised that it wasn't working for us. So I took it on myself to learn as much as I could about the subject.
I call it a tragedy, probably the wrong word, but suffering.
No, it is a tragedy, because mental ill health and eating disorders destroy the lives of not only the sufferers but their families as well.
But you've turned that into something so positive and so
it's amazing, really, that 20 years ago our story was just beginning, and 20 years on we've done what we've done. But I have to say that very little has changed in the system.
I've heard that.
And I think that's what we're passionate about.
Yeah, so...
that was why we wanted to... I mean, I work with families every day, and I see the destruction that eating disorders and other mental illnesses not just bring to the sufferer, but the whole family.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really passions me, because obviously 20 years ago we were there, And I just feel that so much more needs to be done. And I think with eating disorders, there is still a lot of misunderstanding around the subject.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Budget Day on GB News tomorrow. Stay with us all day for the most anxiously anticipated budget in a generation.
Morning through to evening, we'll be here with insight
and analysis, crunching the numbers
as we work out the cost to the country and, most importantly, to you.
Because the Chancellor has a bill to pay. The question is...
who's going to pay it? Budget Day, tomorrow on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, yes, we do have some breaking news to bring you. We did talk about the budget and we'll go through that, but tomorrow's budget is fast approaching, but very importantly, some of you will know about the Lebanese terrorist organisation Hezbollah. Well, they have actually chosen a new leader now. Yes, they just appointed Sheikh Naim Qassim, who has been chosen to take over from Hassan Nasrallah, who Israel successfully killed in an airstrike back in September. Yeah.
OK, tomorrow's budget will also commit to a cap on bus ticket prices, and the one that is 50% higher. Keir Starmer's confirmed that the £2 cap on bus fares in England will be replaced by a £3 cap from the end of the year. Our Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley with more.
The coastliner 840 is the most scenic bus route in Britain. Taking in views of the North Yorkshire moors, passengers can travel 140 miles from Leeds to Whitby and back for just £4 under the bus fare price cap. It serves rural villages like Goathland, famed for Heartbeat and Harry Potter. But there are fears that the service could be scrapped as a result of the budget.
£2 fare cap really has been a lifeline for many services that are teetering on the edge of survival here in North Yorkshire and really across the country. It's been extremely popular. We've seen an uplift in passenger numbers. We're in a very rural part of North Yorkshire here in the moors. This is just one of the communities that could be left cut off if we do see this breakdown of the network in North Yorkshire.
The new £3 price cap is now set to remain until the end of 2025. But without the cap, Councillor Duncan warns of a cease in services.
The fear really is that we see these skyrocketing fares, passenger numbers plummeting, and our bus services here in North Yorkshire once again being thrust into jeopardy. We could see up to 80 routes at risk. That's a third of our network, and I really do fear that we could be facing catastrophic consequences for North Yorkshire's bus network.
For passengers boarding the bus in Malton, removing the price cap would not be welcome.
We probably wouldn't bother because it doesn't become financially viable, does it? Because you can do it cheaper in the car. The whole point is it's cheaper on the bus, you know, which is better, surely.
Just wouldn't use the bus. Just wouldn't use it. Yeah, just stick to the car.
When people are struggling financially in any case, then it's yet another thing, isn't it? And unless you're going to work, it's just something that you do from choice. So, yeah, there's a big chance that people wouldn't because they couldn't. They'd feed the kids instead.
The budget will now include a commitment to keep a cap on bus prices at an increase of 50%. But there are still fears over the future of the cap after next year. Anna Riley, GB News.
That bus cap, let us know what it means to you, and we'll talk about that more on that tomorrow. To the question we're asking today in the poll is, how worried are you about this budget? The results so far are...
90% of you are very worried, 7% of you are somewhat worried, and 2% of you are not worried, and only 1% of you are not sure. And, of course, the final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
Now, Andrew Pearce is laughing away here. I'm not sure that means he's worried or he's not worried at all.
Why they put so much of it out already, and just blithely telling us that the bus fares are going to go up from £2 to £3. Is that not a tax on working people?
Of course it is. And the thing that gets me, Andrew, is you ask a minister a question on a Sunday or a Monday and they say, well, of course, I cannot preempt the budget. I cannot tell you this. And then we go to an interview where they tell you everything.
That's unbelievable. I've never known a budget quite like this.
Well, the Speaker told off the government yesterday, didn't he?
He was right to do that, I thought.
Trailing
America.
I mean, maybe that there are many more things to come out tomorrow, although that would seem unlikely. But I wonder if that 2% of people who aren't worried have actually already moved to Portugal.
Well, I was thinking of going there. Lovely place.
Very low taxes, I hear.
The Speaker was... may have had to be responding to the fact that this is to keep the markets happy, to let the markets know there'd be no horrible surprises.
This is a really good point, and whatever you think about Liz Truss, a lot of what happened after her budget was the fact that the markets just didn't like it, and so started this kind of fallout that ended up in high interest rates and everything like that. So chancellors don't have as much power as they'd like, because whatever they do has to be tested by the market, doesn't it? And we'll have to see what happens.
Well,
so maybe that's why she's trailing it.
Well, she's doing it, but she's avoiding that car crash. But instead of it being a quick one, it'll be a slow motion one, I suspect.
Well, this is the longest period between the general election and budget for a new government in 50 years.
Wow.
And it's been a terrible mistake. Because there's a vacuum and people have filled it with speculation, and they've just kept feeding us more and more negative stories. His speech yesterday was so downbeat. The Prime Minister, for God's sake, man, when Blair got in 19, he was fizzing with optimism.
Yes.
And good ideas. And he had Starmer's got the same size landslide, albeit on a smaller share of the vote. Give us some optimism, man.
Sick of them blaming the Tories for everything as well.
Come on, exactly.
The last 14, you ask them a question, they'll go back to that. Angela Rayner was like that in Prime Minister's questions. It was terrible.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, what have you got for us today? What are you going to be talking about?
Well, we are going to be talking about the news yesterday that the fertility rate in the UK has fallen to the lowest on record. So now an average woman can expect to have 1.44 children, which is significantly lower than the 2.1 that's needed for a stable population. So we're going to be talking to an expert on this about what does it mean and how.
I just want to know why this should worry me. I thought that overpopulation was the blight of society.
Well, it shouldn't worry us, our generation.
Well, it might worry you. There's nobody to look after you when you're very old. So the overall size of the population is not particularly important. What's important is the ratio of young people to old people, because you need enough people in the workforce to pay tax, to pay for pensions and healthcare and things like that. And in the 1970s, we had 4 working people to every pensioner. Now it's 3 to 1, and it'll soon be 2 to 1. So if you're wondering why taxes are so high and the NHS is so stretched, that is the answer. So that's why you need enough young people coming into the workforce to replace those who are leaving. And we do have a deficit at the moment because of the birth rate.
Migrants? Well,
immigration is perhaps a temporary fix, but the trouble is immigrants get old too. They don't actually have any more children over the long term than Brits, so you just have to import more people to look after them when they're old. And birth rates across the whole world are falling, so there won't be spare young people.
But this should be a good thing. We need robots.
Well, they've tried that in Japan and it's not very popular.
Yeah, but not yet, because they might find robots to take our place. We don't want that. We couldn't have a robotic Eamonn Holmes. We've got a robotic Chance of the Exchequer.
We have, actually.
She might be a robot,
I think
Rachel Reeves. She sounds like one anyway. Sorry to be unkind.
You see, I'm not sure. I have a slight doubt about all this. I totally take on board what you say. But I think a lot of this is driven by big business. It's what the business wants in the marketplace. They want a workforce. They want a workforce at a certain price and whatever. And I just don't know. And as soon as business is finished with this, they'll use robots or they'll use artificial intelligence. They don't really care. But this is to suit business, that they can keep their factories open and they can do all this, which may be...
But if you look at the most striking statistic is that 100 people in Britain today can now only expect 52 grandchildren between them. So if you think about what that means to our population in just 2 generations, I mean, where are you going to get your doctors and your nurses?
Well, I won't care because I won't be here.
Well,
but I mean...
some of us do care.
Yeah, I think I'll be long gone as well by then.
No, you won't.
Or in Portugal.
Pictures of health, both
somewhere else.
Have yourselves a good show anyway. Thank you very much indeed. So it is Andrew and Miriam coming up next. And you have yourselves a good day. I'll say goodbye to you because you're not here tomorrow.
I'm not here tomorrow. I'm out there.
Okay.
Having a nice meal with my new...
Oh. With you and your new... Oh. See you in the morning with Ellie.
warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a cloudy day on offer today, largely dry, though there will be some spots of rain and drizzle at times. And where that cloud breaks up and we see those brighter spells, it's going to feel mild for the time of year. A fairly cloudy day on offer, particularly at times across the far southeast, where we'll see some outbreaks of rain and drizzle. This is similar across the far northwest of Scotland too. Fairly damp afternoon here across the far northwest Highlands, but otherwise largely dry, and seeing that cloud break up more than it did on Monday. And looking at those temperatures, it's still fairly mild for this point in October, so feeling pleasant where you catch those brighter skies. As we head through into the evening, we'll continue to see that fairly damp evening on offer in the far northwest Highlands, but elsewhere across Scotland it's going to be largely dry, even seeing some clearer spells in the far east at times too to end the day. Fairly cloudy across Northern Ireland and also northern parts of England, but once again there will be some clearer spells at times. And similar across Wales, central and southern England, a mix of cloud and clear spells as we head into the evening. Now where we see those clearer skies, we're likely to see some mist and fog develop. That could be quite stubborn to clear by the time we reach the morning. Otherwise, once again, staying largely dry overnight, still with those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the far north of Scotland, and just a slight breeze strengthening across Scotland too, but otherwise light winds and staying fairly dry with a mix of that cloud and those clearer spells. So quite a grey start as we head into Wednesday, some mist and fog during the first part of the morning too, but generally we have high pressure building, so there's going to be lots of dry and fine weather around, though may just be quite cloudy and drab at times. We will eventually start to see some outbreaks of rain just moving into the far Northern Isles later, but otherwise a largely dry day on offer, and once again temperatures just above average, so feeling pleasant for the time of year.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M60 in Greater Manchester is partly blocked clockwise by an accident between junctions 17 and 18 from Prestwich to Sinister Island, causing queues. On the M6 on Merseyside, there are southbound queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident between junctions 23 and 22 from Haydock towards Newton the Willows. Also on Merseyside, the A554 is blocked for an investigation on Tower Road in Birkenhead. In Flintshire on the A55 North Wales Expressway, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 32A and 33 from Frencher Holkin to Northop, causing queues. The A1 in Nottinghamshire's closed southbound from Blythe to Retford after a lorry caught fire. And on the M4 in Bridgend, there's a lane closed eastbound again today for barrier repairs between junctions 35 and 34 from Pencoed to Miskin, causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The number of pubs may reach critically low levels.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is a decline in the number of pubs in Britain, and it's fallen. This is an absolutely astonishing figure. So it's basically fallen 10% in a decade. So do our maths. It doesn't take very long for that to happen. So if that carries on, we'd have, get this, only 1,000 pubs by 2074. So the big question is, what will become extinct first? The bank branch on your high street, or the pub on your street corner? And this is a kind of perfect storm for landlords and landladies of, the cost of labour. Remember when the energy prices were at the high, we just realised just how much energy it keeps to keep the lights on in the local boozer. Yeah. As well as, as the cost of the golden nectar itself. So, as they call it in Australia.
Well, talking about that, I was mentioning the other day to, was it my father-in-law? I said, when I first started going to the pub, I was 15,
Okay.
Half a lemonade, half a shandy.
I was nearly 16, I got half a shandy. No, we used to have Monday Club, where a pint of Foster's was £1.50. And my father-in-law was saying, I went to London the other day, a pint was £8.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And when you've got those kind of prices, why wouldn't you just go down the supermarket and get 16 tinnies for £5?
So you're going all Aussie now. Put the tinnies in the esky before you have the bar.
Good day, mate. Why not?